Hello, people of Earth. It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. We're gathered around the internet to ask the same question we ask each and every week, and that is, hey, did you see this one? Hello and welcome to Hey Did You See This One, the weekly podcast where we ask, hey, did you see this one? That was a pretty smooth opening compared to normally where I forget what I'm going to say altogether, stumble over my feet.
Make it up as you go along.
Make it up as I go along and fall directly on my face. My name is Jason Robert Phillips. I'm joined as always by Stephen Rogers Waters.
Close.
And this week we are joined by Noel K, friend of mine for quite some time. I thought we'd have them on the show this week because they are a ridiculous movie fan. And I messaged you about something at like 3 o'clock in the morning, just out of the blue. I think we were talking about Batman. And you were giving me these, like, I don't know, manifests, I think you would call them.
Oh, I thought you were going to say hand signals. I was like, what do these hand signals mean?
Essays, dissertations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Maybe you should come on the show and talk about movies with us. And, of course, I had to go ahead and pick, as you can see here, Last Action Hero. This week we're talking about Last Action Hero, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and the worst actor kid I've ever seen in my life, named Danny something or other. I'm gonna, of course, look up what his actor name is here in a moment.
Austin O'Brien.
Uncle Google here.
Austin O'Brien?
Yes. God
damn, what a kid. I lost my train of thought because of course I did. Before we get into our history, did you have anything that you wanted to talk about, Steve?
You mean, do you want me to tell you what this movie's about?
No.
Is that what you mean?
No, okay. For some reason last week we talked about something before we got into it and I got confused. Also, here you go, Noel. You got one of these. Everybody put it together for Noel.
Welcome.
Oh, I like that.
How'd that get in there?
We're gonna have a good time tonight.
We like to have fun here. Let's see. Welcome to the history of the movie.
A brief history.
So this is just basically we go around and talk about our history with the movie. If you have any history facts about the movie that you may know, this is the time for that as well. But I've made it a sort of a tradition to start with the guest. So Noel, why don't you tell us about your history with this movie? How many times you've seen it? Things of that nature is sort of the
idea. So this movie and I go way back to last week, where I saw it for the very first time. I actually I don't think I was aware of this movie. Like there were just so many like Arnold picks around that time. Like he was just big. Like Kindergarten Cop was one that I watched a lot. But this one for some reason, no.
It got kind of buried by Sony.
I wonder why.
I wonder why.
Odd. So really no history with it at all. But I like a good Arnie flick any day, especially when he's being his most one-linery. So, always a good time.
Yeah, I think the tropiness of this movie is something we're gonna dial down into quite a bit.
Yeah, and I like stupid movies.
Yeah,
that's a main thing. Like, if it's a stupid movie, I'll probably like it more than Oppenheimer. Like,
right.
The best movie in the world. No thanks.
Yeah.
All right, great. Steve, why don't you hit us with yours? I assume something similar to Noel.
No, I saw this movie when I was a child.
Okay.
My dad rented it.
Time.
Yeah, I have a very clear memory of what's his name, the guy from The Honeymooners. Art Carney getting blown up in his house. I remember being absolutely terrified when he died. I was like, is he dead? Even though we just saw like a bunch of people get shot. I think there's something about a sweaty old man who's pale, just slowly dying in front of the camera. It's more scary to a little boy than people getting blown away by machine guns. But that's kind of the only memory I really have of it, though. I don't have a ton of. I don't think I really liked it as a kid. I think I kind of got bored of it. And it wasn't one of those ones that we would rent over and over again. And then I didn't see it again until about 10 years ago. And the same thing happened. I got terrified at Art Carney's death. I got bored like partway through the movie. And I don't think I even finished watching it. And then I watched it again today. And I'll tell you, I got bored. I wanted to turn it off halfway. But I didn't hate it. I just feel like it's got some weird pacing issues, but I've seen it exactly 3 times in my life.
Okay. It's similar for me. I remember renting this at a sleepover when I was probably 1993, but it would have been 8, probably the following year, age 9. And I remember seeing it several times, like around that era. But the weird thing is I was sure this movie was about Arnold coming to the real world and doing a lot more, not just coming to the real world in the last 20 minutes and just like screwing up a whole bunch. I don't know what happened, but I forgot the second half of this movie. And I'm watching the movie and they get to the funeral, the fart funeral, as you called it in our chat earlier, Steve. And I'm going, this seems like it should be the end of the movie. But
it should have been. Yeah, you're right.
It seems like there's so much more also because I looked at the runtime.
It's like the midpoint.
It's like the midpoint of the movie. It's about an hour and 15 minutes in. Because I started it on Monday, and I have this bad habit of watching movies in 2 halves, days apart.
I did it in 2 halves too.
I'm a television person. So
you guys are crazy.
Yeah, it's the only way my tiny brain can consume movies because I need to watch them in episodes of TV. But I
bet you if I chopped up the movie into 2,000 TikTok videos, you would watch it all in one go.
Oh, I probably would. There's
just like scroll. Scroll.
Although there might be a niche for that, just taking movies and turning them into 25 TikTok videos.
Would you get a copyright strike for that? If there are a whole bunch of different TikToks, then you can't, right?
TikTok is crazy, dude. I see people just playing full movies on TikTok live all the time, and they don't get taken down. I was playing Guitar Hero on TikTok live a bunch about 6 months ago, and I didn't get a single copyright strike. I did it on Twitch one time, and it got taken down almost immediately. So that's that, I guess. But here's part of the thing, though. I watched it a bunch of times when I was like 10, and then I hadn't seen it. I haven't seen it since then. So some things got mixed up in my head. And
you're like, wait a minute, I thought he played a man with a freeze gun in this movie.
Exactly.
Like, no, Jason, you're thinking of a different movie.
A great movie.
I thought he said "Ice to meet you" and then froze a man dressed as a bat.
He says, "Time to kick some ice."
Freeze, everybody chill. I can't remember which one.
He says, "Everybody chill," and he says, "Cool party," and he says, "Time to kick some ice," and he said, I love that movie as well.
It's my second favorite Batman movie.
Done Batman Forever. No, when we do,
that's not even the right movie.
Batman and Robin.
You go.
When we inevitably do Batman month, at some point, you'll have to just come be on as a resident for the whole month. This is not that month. This is last action. This is Beefy Hunk Action Month, is what it's called. I tried to make it as misogynistic sounding as possible, but also homoerotic because
just like these movies.
That beef. Yeah.
Especially Masters of the Universe was the most horny, I will say.
Okay.
Yeah, we did.
That sounds wild to me.
I mean, it's just Dolph Lundgren in underwear for the entire movie and a cape. He's wearing a cape as well.
There's a point in masculinity where it just like gets so hard into masculinity that it just turns into homoeroticism. Like it just
it becomes an Accept cover. The band Accept.
Listen, I've been to several bars where people, the bartenders, were dressed like Dolph Lundgren for a Masters in the Universe. I'm just telling you right now. It's a thing. It's a thing in real life.
It's a thing. It's a very horny thing.
Yeah. So back to this movie. Should I give us the summary or what?
Do we want to include that as the history of the movie, or do we want to move into the body?
Probably the body.
All right, let's give Noel the long body. I'm sorry that I phrased it that way.
Oh, wait, thank you.
But you'll see. You'll all see.
Ho, 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 ho! Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Also, before we get into the body, I do have the MPAA rating. It's 32089, and the only reason we do that is so I can play this little number.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
These are kind of more embarrassing when I don't know the guests.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic for me.
Don't worry. I think this is great.
Just remember that I would sit in my apartment by myself, yelling into a microphone, and then editing those clips to sound crazy.
Yeah.
I love it.
There's a couple more. But yes, we are now in the body of the episode where we talk about just whatever. Usually we, depending on the movie, sometimes I run down the plot, and sometimes we have enough to talk about that we just have a conversation. So let's just give it our best, see what we can do with Last Action Hero. Steve, why don't you kick us off with a short synopsis of the film, which I think we need a soundbite for.
Sure, we'll think of one day. So this movie is called The Last Action Hero, or just Last Action Hero, I think. No, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and some kid, directed by McTiernan, I think. Is it John McTiernan? Yeah, he's just like a classic action director, Die Hard, Predator, and it was written by two dudes they hired. I cannot remember who their names, but they were hired in basically to make a parody of like a Shane Black script.
Well,
and
it's
then
Zach Penn and Adam.
I know. I'm getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Let me talk, Jason.
Sorry. I thought you couldn't remember who they were.
No. They hired two guys to write the script, and then they hired Shane Black to rewrite the script to make a parody of a Shane Black script, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But I think then at that point, Arnold Schwarzenegger also wasn't satisfied with the script, so they hired another person. Anyway, it seemed pretty messy. But that all aside, the movie is about a little boy with no friends, and he goes to the movies to watch his friends that live inside of movies. Arnold Schwarzenegger as what is his name? Jack Burton? I can't remember.
Jack Slater.
Jack Slater.
Can I interject? For some reason, on the IMDb, Shane Black is credited as a writer on this.
He is a writer. On this.
Yeah. So that's
it's on Scholarly Journal Wikipedia. It has him as co-written by Shane Black.
Yeah, so there was the first script was two people, then Shane Black came and rewrote it, and then another guy rewrote it again. So it's it's crazy. Sometimes there's like 9 writers on a movie, and that's when you end up with like Doctor Strange in the Mind of Madness. Anyway, it's about a little boy who his only friend is like an elderly man who works as a projectionist in an old rundown theater, and he skips school, and his mom hates it. But then one day, the elderly projectionist lets him know that he has the newest Jack Slater movie. He has the print of it, and he has to test the print at midnight, so he should come watch it and get to see it before the movie's released. Which, as a little boy who was always obsessed with when movies came out, that would be like a dream for me. Like if I got to see Star Wars Episode 1 like a month early, I would have lost my mind. And he gives him a ticket, like a weird ticket that Houdini gave him or something. I don't remember the exact point of that.
It was
Houdini himself.
He's like, this is so special, and then rips it in half immediately.
Yeah, he rips it in half, and then 2 lightning bolts come out of it or something. Like it looks like he's ripping a firework in half that's lit. And then the movie ticket gives the boy, or not the movie ticket itself is magic, and it sucks him into the movie, and he basically lives out the entirety almost of the move, the plot of this sort of like Die Hard-esque movie, until the villain, whose name is Benedict, I believe. I don't think he has a last name.
Yeah, they call him Bullseye as well.
Played by Charles Dance, who is an excellent villain and plays villains often, but he's good as a non-villain too. Alien 3, anyone?
Tywin Lannister.
But I guess he technically is a villain because he's a prisoner. He's a convict who's like a murderer, so he's probably still a villain in some capacity. But he's also like a doctor in that movie. Anyway, he gets the ticket stub and ends up traveling into our world, where he realizes that the real world is evil, and so is he. So that means that he's the hero in the real world, and he can win. So he decides to start pulling villains out of movies, and he pulls out one of Jack Slater's old enemies to have a showdown with him. And then eventually he has a showdown with him, and then he shoots him with a real bullet, and then Death shows up, played by Ian McKellen, for 5 minutes.
Has Ian McKellen been that old for like 100 years?
Yeah.
I was like, no way, he's already old in this movie.
If you ever see the movie The Keep that was made in like the 70s, he still has like white hair. Like he looks old in that even.
Like this is over 10 years before X-Men. And he looks the same as he does in
X-Men. I think was 2000.
2001, yeah. So it's 8 years before.
Well, I mean, I think in those movies they do age him up a little bit. But some people just look old when they're like in their 20s, and then they just eventually get really super old eventually.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart is similar to that, where he just has looked old.
Christopher Lee,
Christopher
was
Lee.
young for about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. In the 60s.
Yeah, that's pretty much the
That's pretty much the plot. And then but I mean, Death shows up for some reason. It's like meant to be metaphorical, I think, in some capacity, but it also, Death gives him like a little hint on how to get Jack back into the movie, where a bullet wound to the chest is just considered a flesh wound, and he's healed, and there's a little comedic moment beat at the end, and everyone's happy.
That's one of the most egregious things in the movie universe. It's supposed to be like a Die Hard or like a Lethal Weapon, but at one point Jack Slater gets shot with a shotgun at like point blank and just has a shotgun wound on his shirt but nothing underneath, so
because he's a bulletproof vest.
Not at the beginning, not when he gets shot in the chest with a shotgun. You can see his chest.
Yeah, he pulls it out.
Oh, he pulls it out? How did I miss that?
Maybe because you were watching it and also at work.
I wasn't. I was watching it at home. Okay.
Okay. Well, you were on TikTok.
25 TikToks.
I was. Yeah, I would have caught every little minute detail.
No, he pulls it out and then he says, "Never leave home without it," and throws it on the ground.
Okay, right.
Except at the end of the movie when he gets shot in the chest and clearly left home without it because he doesn't have one on. I'm just wondering if the little boy went on to make any actual friends, or if he still just goes to the movies like a creep. Who knows?
Who knows? The kid in this movie, what's his name? Austin O'Donnell?
Danny something? The real name.
His real name is Austin O'Brien, but he's not been in too many other movies, so it's.
He was in My Girl too.
Yeah, I remember.
That's
him.
Smash hit.
I remember him now, and I remember how terrible of an actor he is. But in this,
he's also in Lawnmower Man too. Oh, wow, he's the king of the sequels.
The king of the terrible sequels.
I guess the prince.
All of his lines, he just over enunciates.
No, I agree. He's a little bit much. He gets pretty grating pretty quickly. He does have a few moments where clearly they were able to pull like a pretty decent performance out of him, but yeah, a little oversteeped, if you ask me.
I was kind of done with him when he's sitting in the movie theater, like eating popcorn, and it's just like terrible because it's like a super close up of his face and like just like shoving popcorn. But I found he got less annoying as the movie got more outrageous, and as the movie just like kind of fell apart around him. Yeah. He fit better.
It's because everybody else is also going bananas over the top and they're acting around him.
What's interesting about this from a 2023 standpoint is now all the action stars have sequels where like their younger counterpart comes in and like helps out. The last two Indiana Jones were kind of like that, and back then all these action stars were still the guy, so they almost like predicted like what future movies would be like through this in a way. And that's something that I found interesting. And that's the only thing that kind of redeemed him for me in this. But the problem is he like chews the scenery so bad. And it's not this like highbrow movie, right? Like there's a lot of like overacting.
It isn't?
From everybody.
Hold on a minute. You're telling me this isn't high cinema over here?
But like when Arnold is just like has so much charisma that he can say anything and it's awesome, and then this kid just like belts out some like he feels like a kid in like a theater production, you know, like a kid when you go to the theater and you see a kid just overdoing it. Like he kind of had that vibe.
Yeah, like their parent is off camera being like more.
It's got a lot of decom energy, like the Disney Channel original movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I want to ask you guys is I'm sitting there going like, who's this movie for? Because it feels like a kid's movie, but it's referencing so many like
Adult
R-rated
movies, yeah,
or 14A movies.
I guess those moments are meant to be for the parents. Yeah.
I don't know, because I was taking notes at first, just kind of like to, you know, on the podcast I'll refer back to them, and I wrote premature ejaculation ? And then didn't make any notes after that. Was just kind of like, I don't think I need that.
Yeah. That's said twice in the movie as well.
It is said
Like,
twice.
whiz.
It bookends the movie, actually.
Yeah,
That's
does.
the real moral of the story.
Well, the movie's also rated PG-13, so it's kind of for 15-year-olds.
But also, I think that the movie would benefited without having subtitles in a movie theater. And I think some things were able to slip by the censor. Like, if you have subtitles on for when the police commissioner is yelling things, he's yelling some crazy shit.
He is. So, funny story about subtitles. I have to have subtitles when I'm watching movies. I just like can't without
Me too.
it.
Because you're a millennial?
Yeah.
It's a thing that we do, I found out.
Oh yeah, so I watch movies with like somebody who's like a boomer all the time, and they hate that I want the subtitles on. But so I, like a boomer, went out and actually rented this movie from like the only rental place left in Toronto. But the movie is so janky and like such a shitty like DVD that it doesn't have anything other than just play the movie. So the first 20 minutes I didn't have any of that, and the sound balance was so bad that like I missed. I could was just like I could barely hear it.
What
And
are
I
they
had
saying?
to rent it on Prime. Like I had to rent it on Amazon and then get the subtitles. And I was gonna go back and watch this 20 minutes, and then I was like, nah, I think I'm fine.
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, I rented it off. I just set it into my remote control on my new TV, and then I paid $5, and then I had it.
I paid a whole $8 for it in total.
Jesus.
I just put text to speech on and put my phone near it and just read my phone as it was yelling into. If you watch the subtitles for the police chief in particular, I think they
It's
slipped
filthy.
a few things past them. Yeah, that like this should not be in a PG-13 movie, guys.
Well, considering Judge Dredd a couple weeks ago was a PG-13 movie, but in all of our minds we seem to remember it as an R-rated movie. This is one of the opposite of that, where they were going for slipping things past the censors. But like watching it, I'm going like, this feels like a kids movie that was written by like
Shane Black.
Shane Black, yeah, like a bunch of like pretty good writers. I think you were mentioning Die Hard, but I think it feels more like a parody of Lethal Weapon, and that's the Shane Black mess of it. And even right down to there's a part where when the house blows up and the two cops get thrown into the tree, it shows one of the cops, and as he dies, it just plays a little sting, a little.
Well, he also says like two days till retirement.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
Like,
and then it plays the little
saxophone
Lethal
sting.
Weapon
Like,
So that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Honestly, the first thing I thought while watching this movie was Airplane, because
Okay.
it's got like Airplane, a good movie that is a parody, and then this one that it's a parody. So that's what I was thinking. Airplane.
I think
Yeah.
the Jack Slater series of movies would just be like Mel Brooks style mashup parodies.
That's the thing that kind of I thought there would be more of. I haven't seen it in a very long time, and it is listed as parody. So I thought like, oh, is this going to be like a Wayne's brother? There's a Wayne's brother in this movie. Even he shows up at the red carpet
There's
event.
so many cameos.
Yeah, it's
I was
wild.
like, did
Jim
they pull
Belushi.
every favor they had?
Or they like
Little
actually filmed
Richard,
it.
Tina
Yeah,
Turner.
exactly. Little Richard is so strange to me. Like he
pops
makes
up
me
in
feel
everything,
uncomfortable
dude.
when I see him. I'm like, he looks like an alien to me.
I was talking to my dad about this over the weekend, and he's like, "Man, Little Richard was everywhere in the '90s." Like, yeah, I watch a lot of like, we watched Blossom. I watched the whole series of Blossom with a friend on a podcast, and he showed up on that a couple of times. He used to pop up on like sitcoms, like Full House. He's in this. Like he was just had this weird prolific like cameo career all through the '90s.
It's because he was a little bit of a punchline.
Yeah.
Like just having him show
Yeah.
up was like an automatic knee slapper. Yeah, I assumed that they filmed that entire sequence like at an actual red carpet event, and then just were like, can we, just film on this while we're here for, I don't know, some other movie.
It was just this movie without that scene in it.
Yeah, they just had to. It's like a reel comes up that says like missing footage. Yeah, so I mean, the beginning of the movie is actually pretty good, and I do like a lot of parts in this movie. I like that entire Hamlet thing where he goes to school to catch the end of school, and they put on Hamlet for them to watch with Laurence Olivier, and he's just imagining Laurence Olivier as Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is pretty great. And
it keeps getting
he's like,
increasingly
"You
more
killed my
insane.
father.
Yeah, it's really
Big
fun.
mistake." Throws him like out a window. Yeah, and he's using machine guns and smoking cigars, and it's filmed very well and very comedically. Like that's like where the parody is perfect, right? You're like, oh, this is actual parody. And I kind of wanted more stuff like that, but it, when they're in the actual movie, it just turns into one of those actual movies. There are over the top moments, but it's more just like, look, everybody's a hot woman, and it's like, yeah, but that's what every action movie is like. Oh, look, there's a cartoon.
I loved that. I love that. Like the cat, and like he's one of our best
Danny
guys.
DeVito,
Like,
yeah.
That was Danny DeVito,
love
right?
the cat.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was.
all the women dressed like that. I was like, wait a second, is this movie a feminist masterpiece? Like, is it making like meta commentary about the way that women are treated in Hollywood? I love the
Surprisingly forward thinking for 1993 to have a reference like that. Like, of course it's all attractive women. It's a movie, It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know
But
what you're
then they
talking
just-
about.
if it was just attractive women, it would be one thing. But the fact that they like ramped it up so high that every woman is like in vinyl and
Yeah.
bondage gear
Yeah.
and just like so outrageous. Like
They're
I
dressed
loved
like-
it. And
Like supermodels on the runway, but like just like one of those weird
Just
artsy
fetish
ones. You're like,
gear.
this doesn't make any sense to me. Is that woman wearing a gas mask?
at
Yeah.
first I was like, what the hell is going on? And then when the kid talks about it, I'm like, yeah, feminist masterpiece. Perfect.
All
I'm
right,
in.
Yeah.
They really had to underline it too, because when they show the real world, like everybody, it's like this version of New York. It's like 1970s, like a
Yeah, it's just
grimy
constantly raining and
exploitation.
There's just water everywhere for some reason. Everything's wet.
And there's like a prostitute at one point that goes up to Benedict, and she just looks like the most normal looking person. And I was like, they did a good
She also
job
looks devastated to
True.
be like on the street. You're like, oh my god.
True, but it was good that they did that, because Danny, when they're in Blockbuster, seeing Blockbuster was a lot for me.
Oh,
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
the? Oh my god! But he goes, "Do you think a woman like that would be working the counter at Blockbuster?" And Arnold's like, "Everybody here looks like that," and it's like, "Yeah,
It's
because we're in a movie.
California.
It's California." Yeah, so. I think, Noel, you may be right. I think this is a feminist masterpiece. You should put this up there with Barbie as two of the greats.
Yeah, this Barbie, and then that's it. Yeah,
That's it. That's the end of the line.
the Grinch. That's the highest you can get for feminist masterpiece.
Is that because the
Oh,
little
goodness.
girl saves the day? I don't know.
Big shout out to the little Brea tar pits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why were they tinted green?
And nerve gas.
Yeah.
Because of nerve gas.
Listen, Steve, are you a farmer? Because you've got a couple acres.
Yeah,
Kicks him
I'll
in the
give you a
nuts.
couple of acres. Yeah. He kicks him so hard that he flies into the air through the kick to the groin. And then his daughter does the same thing later, except she flips a guy over top of her entire head by kicking her in the nuts and into a bookshelf.
So
Yeah.
this is where the movie lost me, because like I so the Hamlet piece was great, and I was like, okay, is the whole movie going to be like this? I actually really liked the action movie, and then once they got to New York, I was like, I don't care anymore. Like
Yeah.
it's just, so that's the pacing issue. But when the daughter was just screaming,
Yeah.
I just wanted to turn the movie off. Like
Yeah.
it was
Screaming
just
is
too
not okay
much.
for me. I have plug
It
my
was
ears
too
when people
much.
do it in real life.
I'm
And,
like, I get what you're doing. I get that you're trying to parody like what this character would be like, but like all you're coming out with is something I don't want to.
yeah, shrieking, some
Oof.
shrill noises. I think that also in the context, she was supposed to be doing it to like confuse the people in the other room to think that she was being like hurt by the guy or something.
Well, I did not get that.
Yeah, because she's like slapping him in the face to like and making it sound like she's screaming, getting slapped, but still make a different noise, maybe.
I didn't put that together, but that's actually like really insightful.
Well, I was like, that's the only reason she's doing it, right? Like she's clearly like.
I think you're doing
trained
a
and
lot
stuff.
of work for the movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like this movie that much.
I think it might have even been an acting choice. It reminded me of during the WWE Divas era when they
Oh,
just
my
had
goodness.
models basically be wrestlers, and they would, when they were trained, they would just tell them to like make as much noise as possible, because that's kind of a thing in wrestling. You're supposed to always be emoting, but a lot of these women took it as like just scream every time you do anything. So it really comes off as like bad. And I thought that this was similar to that, where for whatever reason the writer of the movie, the in-universe movie, would have this actor screaming as they attacked the person, and that's sort of like one of their traits.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I hated it. It made my head, like my eyes in my head, like, oh, stop.
Flames on the sides of your head.
Exactly.
Flames heaving.
But to me, it looked like her character was like supposed to be like, I'm tough like my dad, but I have to pretend to be a screaming, shrieking
I'm a girl.
psycho. I'm a girl. Yeah. And then she kicked a guy so hard that he flew over top of her into a bookcase, and then she took his gun. But then she immediately loses the gun 2 seconds later, which I hate. And that happens so many times in this movie. I hate it. And I know it's tropey and it's meant to be parody, but fuck, I hate it.
I
What
did
was the
like
point
when
of the
she
scene?
came in with the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right through the wall. They set up so many things and pay off so many things in that like fight in the house. There's like a bit where he tosses him the like fake money and he drops it. And he's like, "Oh, you fumbled it." And right before that, when they get to the house, he picks up the money. He's like, "It's fake money, and it burns weird when it smokes weird when it burns." So when Arnold's driving back, he sees the pink smoke coming out, and then when he throws him the gun later, he fumbles the gun. Like they just do these little like setup and payoffs that are like too many in a row almost, but it's just like masterful writing from a parody standpoint. It's almost like a Weird Al song sometimes when they're in the movie
form.
universe. Yeah. Like just all these perfect little connect the dot moments, because it like when you have the Chekhov's gun thing where you like show a weapon or a thing early in the movie and then you get a payoff late. Some movies only have one or two of those total. But to have a sequence or a couple sequences throughout the movie where you see these setups and these payoffs, you almost have to, like, unfortunately, you almost have to watch this movie a few times to, like, get everything. But the problem is this movie needs about 25 minutes just taken out of it, just cut off. Especially
this movie is too long. It is entirely too long.
Like the whole ending where a whole bunch of stuff happens and then they're like, then Death shows up and then the kid's like, "Oh, I know what I'll do," and he just runs outside and gets the fucking ticket.
It really
and comes
seemed
back.
like there was more to that Death thing. Like there was probably even more with Death, because he says to Death, "I'm getting sick and tired of you," and like they've run into each other like 4 or 5 times or something at that point. And I was like, at that point, if you're going to cut that much to the point that their interaction doesn't make sense, then just cut the entire thing.
Because that's what we need for this movie. We need the Zack Snyder cut of the last action.
We need the 4-hour
white
version of the
4-hour
last
version.
action hero. Yeah. And
First
it's 4:3
action
ratio.
hero.
Or the black and white Humphrey Bogart in the that.
Why wasn't there more Humphrey Bogart?
Goodness gracious.
I mean,
yeah. way too long.
I would have liked if he showed up with an army of monsters at the end. That would have been great. If he had Dracula and Freddy Krueger with him.
Yeah.
I want that kind of stuff. If you're going to introduce the idea or the concept of him going into movies and getting villains, then do it. Don't show him with the newspaper and like Jason Voorhees is circled. Like,
No,
I need to see Jason Voorhees show up.
Jason and the Argonauts was circled. And
when there's a point later where there's like literally like Jason Voorhees is circled.
Oh,
in the back
literally.
Of the newspaper.
Okay.
Yeah.
You watched the movie way better than Jason.
No,
Right?
when he holds up the newspaper on the back of it, there's Jason and the Argonauts. The words are circled.
Yeah, but there's another part where he's like, when he's drawing Dracula and everything, where he's literally circled just the character of Jason Voorhees, like the hockey mask and machete wielding maniac,
which is excellent, because that's what I wanted to. Because it takes even the Ripper and Benedict remind me of comic book villains, which I think is important to go up against just a gun.
They're
guy,
over the top,
an action
cartoon
man.
characters.
Yeah. So the fact that Benedict ends up not only being a one-eyed sharpshooter, but now has the power to bring other villains into the world. Explore that. Make a Saturday
That's a more
morning...
interesting movie.
Exactly.
Because like the first, what is it? Like hour of this movie basically is just like climax after climax, like you said, with these like little Weird Al things, but it's just like constantly at like a 10. And then the movie just drops, and you should have gone to the real world first, and then you should have built the climax there.
Yeah.
Instead of like the whole first half reminded me of that scene in Batman the movie where he's got the bomb and he's like trying to get rid of the bomb.
Right.
And then you're like the nuns are there, and then the person with the baby, and then like he just keeps going around. Like that's what it reminded me of just like ramping up in this like old Monty Python kind of way.
But even like literally at points, they make the same visual gags over and over again. Like the sequence at the funeral. This is when I really started to get bored, was the funeral. And I was like, okay, we need to figure out what we're doing here, guys. And they keep showing like different old ladies pulling guns out. I'm like, it's funny when you do it once, but when you do it 5 times in a row, I'm like, okay, we get it. The old ladies have guns.
All I needed to see was the first shot where the nun had the gun.
Yeah.
Like that's the funny bit.
Yeah.
And then you don't need anything beyond that.
But they
like,
just keep showing old ladies with guns. And I was like, oh my
it's okay if you have the bomb scene. Like you can't get rid of a bomb, but it's a problem if you have like 8 of them in a row.
They do that bit goes on for so long too, because it starts on the top of the building, then he ends up over by the edge of the building where the wrecking ball comes to kind of like knocks people over. They all get back up and all brandish guns again. It's that same like
it's over and over.
Then he falls off the building and lands in like the elevator, and then a helicopter comes, starts shooting him, and then he opens the elevator doors, and then they're all there again, and they're all like, and then they show the old woman with the gun again. So you're right. That could have been cut down to one sight gag, and not just
there is such a thing as like action fatigue as well, right? Where it's like I'm getting worn out here, guys. I know you really want to show a helicopter shooting a machine gun, but I don't really care to see it.
Who was it that was so conscious of action fatigue? Peter Jackson. That's why you keep intercutting between the battle scenes and the hobbits and all of that.
Like Peter Jackson, we've talked about it on the podcast a few times. Like even his early like gross out movies, what's it called, Dead Alive, I believe. We watched that a few months ago, and there's this part near the end where he does the same thing. He's just like a really good editor. He knows how to pace his movies out really well, where he keeps giving you these gross out moments, but then he leaves like enough breathing room for you to be like, oh, that was so gross. And just when you slowly start to get back into like comfort zone, another like nasty thing will happen. Like, oh, so much pus. And then it gets to the end where it's just like a guy killing people with a lawnmower.
Too much.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought about
too much, but
when I was watching this movie, I was like, this movie walked so that scene in Fast 10 with John Cena and the kid could run.
Yeah. I saw that's the most recent one, right? I saw that like at the end where they're on the dam and like 8,000 things are just happening, and then they drive down the fucking wall of the dam. Like that movie was outrageous. And it's funny too, because I was always like, man, Fast and Furious movies suck, but I've seen the last like 4, and they get increasingly more insane, and they just have become superhero movies, which I love. So I'm kind of in.
After 5, it
Yeah.
just they ramped it up. 5 is the best one. But this, like, the kid and the big muscly guy was pretty popular in this era. Like, you had, like, what was it, Mr. Nanny, and then, like, it's just a common theme, from Mr. Nanny to, like, the pacifier.
Yeah. This movie is kind of a retread of, like, Terminator. It's kind of a direct parody of Terminator 2 in a lot of ways.
It's almost like there's like this weird sort of moment in every actor of Arnold Schwarzenegger level action hero where they have to make some sort of weird family friendly-ish movie where it's like them teamed up with a kid. Like every single one has done it.
He already had Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah,
I know, but like, well, and then he also does like 10 more where he's just playing a regular dad. It's like, I'm a regular dad. It's like, no, you're not. You're fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You're the buffest man in ever
I've got to go to my son's karate ceremony.
Oh man, remember Twins?
Well, I was going to bring up
where he's with another child.
Twins.
That's Danny DeVito. Sorry,
Danny DeVito. Yeah. Well, so yes,
he's just the size of a child.
Twins is an amazing movie. It's a lot like this movie, and I'm glad that Danny DeVito has the cameo as the animated character. Also, animated characters being in real life situations. Cool World and Roger Rabbit were both out around this time as well, so that was very of the era. So I thought that was a really good touch too, and to have Danny DeVito play that, I when I heard, like, I'm watching It's Always Sunny again all the way through right now, and his voice is like in my head, so immediately I was like, that's Danny, that's my boy.
All I had to hear was "whoa," and I was like, "Yeah."
So anyway, it started.
But also, they're like good friends, I think, Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So and didn't they make more than one movie together? And they're like thinking about making another Twins, I believe. Like,
I think they were supposed to make another
wow.
Twins in like the early 2000s. That obviously never got made.
Right.
Oh, another example of a weird Arnold movie, Fish Out of Water, is Junior, where he becomes a pregnant man.
Yes. Oh my god, that's body horror to an extreme that I do not enjoy. Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
Which is an insane movie that
I had blocked that movie.
Is Danny DeVito in that as the doctor? I think he is.
Maybe.
I'm gonna look up Junior.
Junior.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant.
What? I'm a pregnant man. Yeah, he plays. Yeah, Danny DeVito is the doctor. Also, Emma Thompson's in that movie. That's insane.
Emma Thompson. You're better than that. Golden Globe winner.
Oh my god.
Frost Nixon, Frank Langella, that one.
Well,
Skeletor.
In
Masters of the Universe.
From Masters of the Universe. Ever hear of it? Come on. Was he in Frost Nixon?
Come on.
I never saw such great cinema. It's funny. I'm watching this movie and my wife comes up to me and she goes, "You guys ever do good movies? Why don't you do a good movie?" I'm like, this is fine.
Yeah.
It's a scathing indictment.
I always pick good movies.
I don't think you understand the premise of this show. And
Frank Langella is Richard Nixon in Frost Nixon.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I don't think I've seen Frost Nixon, but I know the other guy, the guy who's doing the interview.
A classic 2008.
Yeah. 2008.
This movie, though, eh?
This last action adjacent hero. So I'm at we should talk about the fact that Wendy is Sonya Blade. And that's all.
Who's Wendy? The daughter?
The daughter, yeah.
We should talk about that?
I don't know. I thought I'd mention it. She plays Sonya Blade. She's also in Billy Madison, I think. That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace. That movie definitely doesn't hold up as far as...
You guys think it's weird that when the kid gets, like, home invaded in the middle of the night and he goes to the police station, the police are like, yeah, just go home alone.
Yeah.
If you know your mom's
home
not
invaded.
there.
That was from a different movie. Like, that scene felt like it did not fit in here.
It was scary.
It was
like
brutal.
I think I remember
he opens the door and sees it, and I'm like, don't open the door again, idiot.
Yeah. I think I remember because like I remember being like really amped up and terrified when I was watching this movie as a kid, and I think it was because of that scene that I was like so on edge. And I know that this is them trying to be like the real world is scary and terrifying, and like if you're a child, it's even more scary and terrifying. And then we go into this like really colorful, fun action world where no one dies, and you can kill a man by blowing an ice cream truck up, and the cone will go in the back of his skull. That's fun.
Which happens in this movie.
It certainly does.
But yeah, I remember being really nervous watching the rest of it, that messed up things were going to happen, and I think it was just because of that one scene that you're right. It feels like it's out of like Signs or like not Signs, The Sixth Sense or something. You know, it's freaky. But I also feel like there's lots of stuff like that in this movie that feels out of place, and you know the villain being really good at shooting people and then having kooky eyes that he puts in and out, contrasted with his character. It's like you don't really understand why he does that. Is there a reason why he does that, or is it just because he's a comic book villain? Who knows?
So that one bomb exists. That's it, basically.
Do they all have bombs in them? They should. It's a pretty good calling card. The eye bomb.
What if it like goes off in your eye?
Yeah,
though?
what if it actually blows the top of your head off?
You blink too hard and it like activates.
Like,
shit.
So to go back to the violence in New York at the time, I just looked it up because I thought by 1993 New York was actually, I thought Rudy Giuliani was in there cleaning up the place, but it could have very well been that gross and violent. But
also like the script and like the movies don't film the year they come out. True. And like it definitely could have been just like, we're doing 80s New York because that's scary New York. That's when everything was.
It feels like a
horror
feels
movie.
Like a Charles Bronson movie, like that, like Dirty Harry level.
When he goes back,
70s.
yeah. When Charles Dance goes in there and he starts shooting people, I'm like, this is like from.
I'm pretty sure there were
Charles
police
Bronson
in
era Death Wish kind of
exactly.
shit. Yeah.
But I was thinking Gotham. Like I just watched.
Yeah.
For 3 weeks, I've watched nothing but the Batman and Barbie. So they're in the rain, and I'm like. The two best movies that have ever come out.
I watched Batman Returns on the weekend because I love that movie and watch it every once in a while. But
I just want to ask you: have either of you seen Beau is Afraid?
Not yet.
At this point,
No.
Not to give anything away, but the first act takes place in a city where everybody's kind of a maniac. And it kind of reminded me of this vibe. And if you haven't seen it, then I'm not going to press on about it, but that's what I couldn't get out of my head. And whenever they depict New York like this, it does remind me a lot of Gotham, and it's this over the top, like the real world world in this movie is almost as insane as like the in movie world, because I don't think there's ever been a time where you could walk down the street and it's that crazy in modern society.
Can you imagine?
I mean, you walk around Yonge and Dundas and you're gonna get stabbed a couple times.
I live in York now. I live at Lawrence and Weston now, so maybe.
I live at Queen and Ossington, and all I can tell you, it's a madhouse.
So yeah,
literally.
The cam age right there.
So this means nothing to anyone who's not from here, but from Wellesley to Bloor, I was like walking to the vet, and I almost had a phone thrown at my head by a crazy person, almost stepped on a needle, had someone solicit me for drugs, and had to avoid human excrement. I was just 2 blocks.
Yeah. I've seen some things living here.
We all live in 2023 Toronto and around.
Just so like you'll be walking down the street, crowded Saturday. There's people everywhere, and a woman will just pull her pants down and take a shit on the sidewalk.
It's true. I was on Queen Street on a Saturday afternoon with families everywhere, and this dude was fully naked with just boots on. That's all he had
I've
on.
seen some things I don't even want to say because it'll probably gross you guys out, but this video will get taken down.
I mean, we've also probably seen it, right?
That's true. Yeah,
I've been on the subway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we
maybe
live
it's
in
not
Gotham,
too far
guys.
from reality.
Yes.
I think we might actually,
Yeah.
but I get it. Like you have this colorful action movie, and you have to contrast it with something. So you just turn it down. I think they overcompensated the contrast. But
it's a little bit much. Yeah, it's too heavy. Yeah.
But even at the beginning of the movie, when his house gets broken in, that's also a little too much. This whole movie
that's
is
what I mean.
too much.
Yeah.
So
that's what the movie should be called.
That's
too much,
part of
starring
that is
Arnold
what I wanted to bring
Schwarzenegger.
up. It's so crazy in the city that you have to have a device on your door that when it closes, it's like a pole that like adds additional.
Yeah,
Did you notice that weird pole?
Yes.
It's like a
yeah.
brace, that locks people out of your apartment for you.
Like in
Yeah.
every movie when someone puts a broom on the thing, then
Exactly.
you can't open the door.
Like, is that thing in the like? Is this such an old building that it's like from the 1920s or something before they had like?
I mean, the doors were made
locksmiths?
of like wood, right?
Yeah.
Like a door made of wood like that, you could probably break it down a lot more easily than my like metal door that I have on my apartment.
You have a metal door. Oh,
I do,
fancy.
yeah.
1%er.
It's heavy too. Yeah. No, I live literally between two CAMH buildings. I think they're like scared that we're going to get murdered.
Yeah, you have to go through 2 buzz codes to get into his building, and then there was a time where you also had to buzz in from the elevator or some
3
combination.
security
Yeah,
combos.
And then
yeah.
Arnold's waiting at the top, right?
Yeah.
yeah, you have to fist fight 1993 Arnold Schwarzenegger,
And he says, "Time to kick some ice." He's dressed like Mr. Freeze. Yeah.
Back to Arnold for a moment, now that we're on it. I've never, ever in my life said, this is an attractive man. Like, as a kid watching him, he was just this, like, kind of gross, muscly dude. And then as the political figure, like, I just don't care. And he's just an old, gross dude. When he first showed up here, I was like, I saw it. I was like, okay, I can see why people thought he was attractive. He's actually quite a handsome man, like at this moment in time.
Yeah, he's also doing actual acting in this movie. Like he's
he's rugged too. He's got a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, which you never see.
He doesn't show a lot of emotion in other movies. It's always maybe 1, 2, or 3 emotions, but he doesn't have moments to shine with like a son and his mother and like have these moments of kindness, and you can see like, oh, he has real emotions coming through, and like he's acting like an actor acts and not just like snippy one-liners and kicking a guy in the balls through a window or whatever.
How'd you like it when there were 2 Arnolds?
Oh man,
off of each other.
That was
like, you're really handsome.
Yeah. No,
I like that he told himself off. He's like, I don't really like you.
You've ruined my life.
You brought me nothing but pain.
Yeah.
It's after watching Judge Dredd a couple weeks ago and seeing that I don't think Stallone's ever been an attractive man, but still very charismatic. I agree. Like this, Arnold has always kind of been a weird looking dude, and in this you can kind of see his charm. And this is I think Kindergarten Cop might be the movie right before this, right?
It's kind of the reason I hesitated to call this month Hunks Month, because I'm like, none of these guys are hunks to me. They're just like a hunk of flesh, maybe.
That's kind of the joke I was making when I came up with this idea. This is an idea that I came up with like a year ago.
This is like Beefcake, like Conan. Yeah. Like there was time, like there was this weird time in the 80s and early 90s where this was the attractive man, and that's actually my main problem with Michael Keaton and why I don't find him attractive as Batman. And Batman should always be attractive, IMO. But it's because he's 80s hot, and 80s hot is kind of gross.
True.
You're right.
True.
Oh, Terminator
and this is both
2
genders.
was the last big one before this. Wow.
How quickly they fall, eh?
Yeah. It's you're right. So I'll give you a little backstory on this. I when it was going to be the original Beefy Hunk Action Month was supposed to be this is so stupid. It was supposed to be like Conan, Masters of the Universe, and Krull, but I thought Krull was the character from the comic books who looks like Conan and also is called not Krull, but
I think you just misremembered what Krull is. You're just like,
there's
Krull.
There's a character who's a lot like Conan who has some name that's similar to Krull, and that's what I got mixed up.
I remember being like, Krull has like a really hairy, bearded.
Yeah, he's
twink.
a pretty boy, kind of a pretty boy douchebag.
Yeah.
So then you guys called me out on that. We ended
up
doing
Pretty Boy Douchebag Month.
We should do that. Yeah.
We'd have to do American Psycho probably. But then we get called out for being film bros.
I mean, you might.
I might.
I'll be able to talk pretty well about that movie.
My point is this is a combination of that idea, and also in the summertime we've been doing like a summer blockbuster month, and then September rolled around and we needed an idea, and then I wasn't going to be here for a month. This is just a little background for all the listeners and viewers.
Jeez.
This is how the
Riveting.
sausage gets made, eh?
This is how the sausage is made.
It's disgusting.
So I pivoted and I came up. I just pitched this and we went with it.
Well, it's been fun so far.
Yeah.
The first two, I didn't even realize that I hadn't seen Judge Dredd. I thought I had, and like midway through watching, I'm like, guys, I've never seen this.
Yeah.
I thought I saw it, but I haven't.
So we did Masters of the Universe, and then the last episode we ended up watching both Judge Dredd movies for the first time on the show, and we kind of compare and contrasted, and yeah. So anyway, here we are.
You know what was really funny in this
Actually
movie
good.
that we're talking about right now is when he goes into his boss's office and his boss is immediately yelling, and for some reason there's a TV right behind his head that's just a volcano exploding.
Yeah.
And it just keeps exploding the entire time.
There
Or
are
when-
good bits in this
Yeah.
movie.
When
That's
this
so
dude
funny.
who already looks like his face is made of plasticine has big fake ears put on over his ears that are blowing smoke out of them with practical effects,
Mm-hmm.
also fantastic.
Yep. It's so weird though, because it's supposed to be parodying stuff, and it is. There are moments where it is just fully airplane, like you were saying. It's fully a Wayans Brothers movie where you're like, why isn't this happening more? Why isn't there more weird cartoony, a guy getting flattened or whatever, and then like he's an outline on the ground, and they have to peel him up like he's a PETA or something, and then you'll have the moment where like the bomb goes off, kills the two cops in the tree, kills his Uncle Frank, he's fine, and then later another bomb goes off and it's just him and the kid in the office again. They're like smoking like they just got out of the explosion. What is this?
It's like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should have more of it. It's just like there's not enough of it for you to be consistently and constantly remembering the fact that it's a parody until those moments happen. And they happen a little bit too few and far between.
Did I hallucinate this? Wasn't there a Warner's Brother cartoon playing on a TV at one point at the beginning of this movie?
Yes,
'Cause
it's
if
the
there's
Wile E.
something that-
Coyote.
Warner Brothers loves to do in its movies, and I've only noticed this recently, is put somewhere on a TV a Looney Tunes.
I'll tell you,
It's to keep them alive.
I was
Yeah.
watching The Flash for the second time, unfortunately, over the weekend.
Why would you do that to yourself?
I wanted to watch Michael Keaton with my dad in the room as Batman again. There's a good Michael Keaton Batman movie in that nightmare of a piece of shit movie. Anyway, that's what I always say about every DC. Anytime Batman shows up, it's like there's a good Batman movie in there. Anyway, there's one point where they're talking about Back to the Future, while on the screens there's a Looney Tunes logo and a Mortal Kombat logo, and every time they cut around Barry Adams, what the fuck is Flash's name? Who cares?
Just call him the Flash.
Barry.
Yeah.
Ezra Miller.
Ezra Miller. There's just
His real name is Ezra Miller.
There's just
My
other
cousin
things
Ezra Miller.
all over the walls. So yes,
He looks scarily like my brother.
really.
like-
Ezra Miller does.
My brother is Ezra Miller. Yeah.
Oh my
So-
god.
Is he a
Yeah.
nightmare person like Ezra? Does your brother have
Not
a
at
farm
all,
with
Yeah.
drugs
but-
and-
Does he kidnap children?
Yeah.
And I hadn't noticed this because I don't know, like all I saw him in was his weird movie with Bowl Cut. What was it? It was one of the Harry Potter ones. I wasn't
Oh,
really
right.
tuned into
Yeah.
Ezra Miller. And then he shows up in this movie and I'm looking at him and I'm like, holy shit, it's my brother.
Yeah. Hold on. Magical beasts and how to get all of them or whatever it's called.
Pokemon
And
and
the
how to
quest
get
for more money.
Dumbledore's quest for upskirts.
Harry Potter and the quest for more money. So I guess we should get back to the magic of this movie, right? Why is there magic? Who knows? But there is. It's like, and it plays very much like a never-ending story or something, right? Where
Mhm.
it's like, when I was a kid, I was given this magical ticket by Houdini, but I never ripped it or nothing. And you're like, okay, cool. And then it turns out the magic is real.
But it's a little
And-
bit. It's also a little bit Back to the Future-y because it's like, the guy who has all the like the inventions, but they're really just it's just a theater, and he's like a weirdo like scientist.
Yeah, but I
he's
mean, I
really-
say fantasy because it's literally a fantasy. When
right,
it's
and then
a
this
magical
kid who
ticket.
has no friends, and he's kind of a dropout, and he hangs out with the weird old guy. I saw a parallel with Back to the Future there.
Have you seen Neverending Story? There's
I
a weird
haven't
old guy who gives him a magic book
Right.
that takes him to a magical land.
Right, I haven't seen Neverending Story since I was a little kid, so
Okay.
My dog
Um,
looks like Falcor. That's all I can add to this.
I know
Oh,
that
I
it's
had a
like
dog that looked like Falcor too. His name was Norton, and you know who else was named Norton? What's his name? Art Carney's character from The Honeymooners. It's
Hey,
all
to
it's
the
all coming
moon.
together here, folks. Sorry, my phone keeps going off.
Oh.
They call
But
him.
yeah, I I feel like the pacing of this movie is, like we've talked about, very weird, but it's also very straightforward. Like not a lot of stuff happens, right? It's just like ding 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 ding, they get out, and then ding ding. Two things happen in the real world, and it's
So,
over.
for the sake of conversation, that's something I wanted to like ask you guys about too while I was watching it. What's the deal with 90s movies being just one thing after the other with no real like thought-provoking stuff and being so predictable? Because it's just like you said, it's like ding 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 ding, everything happens, and when they get into that final run, you just know that it's going to be like he's going
It's
to beat the
because
bad guy, he's going to save the kid, he's going to
it's because
go
the
back to his
80s,
homeland.
the advent of sort of like the blockbuster happened in the 80s, right? And or the late 70s and 80s, and those movies started to become formulaic, and there was like a literal math equation that they were able to decipher in how to put these things
The original
together.
Kevin Feige, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just a box.
His name was Kevin Feige, and he was a magician. Oh, the great Feige. But they just basically started emulating off of one another, right? So it's like, instead of coming up with an original way of telling a story or a different way of telling a story, they just tell the same stories, the same like 3 or 4 stories over and over again, just skinned with different stuff going on in them, right?
It's like paint by numbers.
Exactly, and it proves to be successful, and they're doing the same thing now, except the formula is slightly different, right? With the Marvel movies.
We're going to see this with all those toy movies that are coming out, because Hollywood learns the wrong lesson from everything all the time. So what you're talking about with these 80 movies, they're learning the wrong lesson. And I'm going to go back to Batman for a moment. You learn the wrong lesson for Batman and Batman Returns, and then you turn it into a more toyetic movie. And then you start saying, we need to hit beat, 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 beat. So we're going to start getting that paint by numbers. Well, Barbie worked, and it seems that it happens on regularity. I'm going to say that these movies are so like this because of the economy in the 90s. Like whatever is happening there, your movies always are a reflection of that, right? So everything is dreary and depressing. So your movies are going to be these like really soulless, look at this over here.
Yeah,
look how colorful everything is, and look how beautiful it all is.
I'm really afraid for the Mattel, the new MCU.
You're afraid for it?
I am also afraid.
Let's look at some of Mattel's toys besides Barbie that they have.
Oh.
The Polly Pocket movie? Nobody wants that.
What about Mighty Max?
Are you ready for
Hot
Wheels Magic 8 Ball?
Are you ready for the
Connect
Hot
4?
Wheels,
Yeah.
the Hot Wheels movie?
The movie.
Okay,
American
a Hot Wheels
Girl.
movie could be very cool.
Yeah.
An American Girl would also be very cool. I really wonder what they would do with that. Like, are they going to go hard into the character who, we're not going to talk about it on this movie, but they have really dark
Should
stories.
be a horror movie.
Yeah, it's like, are you going to talk about the girl whose best friend dies in her arms in one of the books? Like, is that where we're going to go?
Okay.
Whoa. I'm not familiar with the
the lore.
Yeah, the lore of that particular doll.
Mattel owns the WWE action figures, so maybe we finally get a real WWE movie that's in this realm, but they're action figures. Toy Story, but it's WWE. That's what I want.
It could be like a claymation kind of thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought...
So this movie, sorry.
You have hope again now?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, one thing that I did think that was clever about this movie that we watched today, The Last Action Hero, was that F. Murray Abraham, the guy who plays John Practice, the guy who just yells, "Practice makes perfect," and like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. I noticed, the first time they meet him, right, the kid says, "Whoa, that guy killed Mozart. You should be careful around him because he kills Mozart and Amadeus." But then later in the movie, when he tells him to meet him at the funeral, it transitions to another scene, and there's this like light-hearted ditty playing, and if you listen carefully, it's like it is a Mozart song, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's a clue. He's gonna ambush him. He's gonna betray him.
Then it all pays off in the end when he hears Mozart for the first time for real.
It's beautiful.
Maybe I will start to listen to it. Wow, or whatever this fucking line. It's so
He does
stupid.
say wow.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, what the heck? Maybe I am going to like it. Wow.
Yeah.
Just like the MPAA, everyone. Wow.
Wow.
That's not a bad Arnold impression for both of you. I'm pretty pleased.
That's the first time anybody said anything about any of my impressions, but maybe it's
It's so that you'll have me back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to just join the podcast because you're a delight to talk to?
God damn, I would love to.
One of the things that does kind of bug me about this movie is that there don't seem to be any rules in place for how the ticket works. How the ticket works.
Sorry, one of my first notes was, what are the rules?
So it wasn't premature ejaculation. That wasn't your first note.
That was my first rule.
Hold on, you didn't write premature. We all wrote it, Jason. I guess it's just the order of which you wrote it that we need to know. Well, I mean, the ticket, it establishes itself as a magical item that can transport stuff through a movie screen, and the dynamite comes through. Okay, so stuff can come through, but why didn't the car come through? Why is it just the dynamite? And then he goes through, and it's like, well, how does he get back? Does he have to just touch any wall? And they don't establish any rules whatsoever.
It seems.
What happened to the other half?
It's just
like the one that fell.
It's just
it gets put in. It gets put into the ticket stub box.
Then, no, because there's the two halves. The one that's dropped from the roof and like is just on the ground.
Oh, you mean at the end? What happens to the other one?
Yeah, that gave me anxiety because I'm like, what could come through? Like, you guys.
Well, that's how
death came through.
That's how death comes through.
That's how death comes through. So you didn't really wrap it up. Like you left that part.
They put on the Rocky Horror Picture Show right afterwards, and Frankenfurter came out.
So you paid off the Mozart thing, but you didn't pay off the MacGuffin.
No.
Yeah,
the actual thing.
I feel like they either ran out of time or they're like, nobody fucking cares anymore. Everyone's happy.
That's what it felt like. It felt like they front loaded this movie with so many ideas that when they got to the ending, they were like, ending.
Well, yeah, that's
this isn't a TV show.
It's like, so they could have just had a little sequence at the end or something where the ticket like flutters away down the street and some random like Steven Spielberg picks it up or something, cameo again. Like, and then I don't know what are you gonna do?
A young Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, yeah.
And it says N-word pass on it.
Oh God!
I saw a great TikTok that was talking about his character in Pulp Fiction and how he wrote himself into that movie, but in interviews would be like, "It's in the script. I have to say what it says in the script." But it's like you mean
the script you wrote?
The script you wrote.
You wrote this for your character.
You also have a foot thing, and then you kiss all over Salma Hayek's feet in that other movie you made. You wrote that, buddy.
Listen, he's made some brilliant films. Let's leave him alone.
It's true.
I don't like how we got there. Like I can understand the art, but I'm not always happy with how we get there with Quentin. But back to this movie. Well,
that
actually,
man was a young Quentin Tarantino.
The script, the part at the end where he's like, "You're saying this because it's in the script," to like the police chief, and then. So are the movies just over? Like, is he gone?
In my head,
when he like winks at the camera, it's like he knows where the camera is, or he's like, I guess, and it's like, so is that now how the movie will always be?
And then he drives off into the sun afterwards.
Yeah.
So this movie ends as badly. Sorry, the movie Jack Slater 4 ends as terribly as The Last Action Hero does, and maybe that's the meta commentary.
Oh, maybe. I don't think there's an answer. I just think we can get to it. There's no equation that we could utilize here to solve this problem.
All I can see is that
I think they just didn't care enough or maybe there was like 5 different endings.
Well,
and they couldn't. There
was an alternate ending that came out 2 years ago.
Not make that much money.
There's a DVD. There's a DVD that came out that has deleted scenes, alternate scenes, and a credited alternate ending, like on its own. So I guess to unlock these secrets, if you die in the movie, you die in real life, or if you die in real life, you die in the movies. But that's what I was thinking. That's just how the fourth movie is what we saw from the time. Okay, here's what I'll do for you. I'll tie it into one of our segments of the show. Here's what I'll say.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's not a theory corner. Actually, it's both. Here, I'm gonna do both.
This movie made money. Sorry.
Okay, so that's the theory corner, and then
The Home Alone of it all.
okay, so the Home Alone of it all, Noel, is the point of the movie in Home Alone where he slaps down the blueprint and the movie starts, right? He's getting ready for the guys. And on every episode, I have a theory corner where I say some bananas stuff. But basically, this movie, Jack Slater Part 4, starts when he falls into the back of the car when he's driving down the freeway. That's the opening of the movie. And then it ends the way that this movie ends. And that's Jack Slater 4. Okay? That's my theory corner. And that's my Home Alone of it all. So
I think that's the actual thing.
I think that's
you're dead
I
on.
think that's the implication.
Yeah.
I think you got it.
So this movie was a budget of 85 million and a box office of 137.3 million. So
Yeah, I'm
obviously
seeing
that
that as
doesn't
well.
that doesn't include like any marketing or anything like that usually.
Yeah. So it
But it didn't
made
lose money.
Yeah. I mean, it's usually you double the budget, right, to make up the marketing. But I don't
Oh,
think
yeah.
this movie was also marketed very well, at least. And it came out June of 1993, which I believe is like dangerously close to when Jurassic Park came out.
Yeah. And Terminator 2.
Oh, I'm allergic to my cat. That's
like,
why I'm always
Laserdisc.
sniffling. Why?
Let me just check when Jurassic Park came out here.
So
Yeah, that's like within weeks of Jurassic Park, the first one, which I believe just like made all the money in the
made
world.
every single dollar that
Just
summer.
ate every other
Yeah.
movie,
So
like the T-Rex.
But also, Jason, Terminator 2 came out
in 1991, I know, or
several years
I know,
earlier.
but in the list of like his accolades of his IMDb entries, there's an entry for Terminator 2 really close to this one. Probably maybe a home release or like a special edition or something. Which
Right.
back then, new versions of movies were a much bigger deal than they are now.
Apparently, Arnold Schwarzenegger was trying to get the movie pushed or pulled backwards, I guess, by several weeks because it was so close to when Jurassic Park came out, but the studio refused because they're like, it has to be a summer movie.
Yeah,
And it's like, well, you don't understand. There's a movie about dinosaurs coming
dinosaurs are the most popular thing right now.
coming from the forest.
I'm
I know so many
loving
kids,
these
and all they want to
accents.
do is watch the dinosaurs.
It's Haunted Mansion all over again. This
Oh,
movie
yeah.
just got buried.
I was gonna me and Steve saw something. We looked at the poster. We saw a trailer for it, and then we watched I think it was that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Did that movie come out already?
It came out with all the other
What?
movies this summer.
Oh,
It was the second week after Barbenheimer was Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
why would they not do it in October? Doesn't that
Why
seem
would
like
they
an
not do it in
October?
October?
It's
They were
a
like, you know what we
movie
can do?
about
We can
ghosts.
compete with Barbenheimer. We're very confident in our movie.
We are Disney. We have this
Disney,
ride
you fools.
that
So, the
everybody's
thing
been
that-
on.
Sorry, this is way off topic, but the thing that nobody is talking about this summer that's a huge deal is you know how Danny DeVito and Rhea Perlman are no longer together? She's in
heard about
Barbie
this.
and he's in Haunted Mansion. She won.
She won.
Oh God, she won.
She
she won the
won.
war.
And if they have any form of like alimony,
She's the
or, like,
last
a
action
separation
hero.
agreement, he's eating probably
gone.
because she made
There was
all
a
the money.
moment there where I thought you were gonna say he was in Oppenheimer. It's like, there's no way he's in Oppenheimer.
I can see him in Oppenheimer.
I mean, he's got dramatic chops. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't imagine 17
So-
years of Always Sunny in Philadelphia is gonna entice Christopher Nolan to give him a role in Oppenheimer.
I don't know. He hasn't really been in any movies since he's been on this show, but he won't seem to die. Like this show is keeping him alive, even though
I
it
don't
seems
think
like
he's that old.
he's pretty old. He's like 75,
Okay, well, I don't know.
I think.
They say short people live longer, right?
That's
I
a
don't
thing that people say.
That'll be great for me.
I have a question for y'all. Hypothetically, this movie makes $100 billion, and they obviously have to make a sequel now. Does this movie have any room to be in a sequel? We see him drive off into the sunset at the end. Do we just rehash this with more tropes? Do we?
Here's what mine would be. It would be like the ticket that we don't see where it goes at the end. is like tracked into a theater on movie theater on someone's shoe or something, and it gets like underneath one of the seats and it flutters and its magic is wearing off. And then the next Slater movie comes out and it activates again, and then a boat comes through and lands on the audience or something, and the villain is now in the real world, and instead of going into this stupid action movie for the entire movie, they're in real life for the entire movie. And more stuff is bleeding through, and that's when you get your Jason Voorhees and your Freddy Krueger and your Dracula and your, I'm sorry, did he say Hitler? He literally said he was going to bring Hitler back.
Which movie would that be? Yeah.
Fictional Hitler, who's like even worse somehow.
Yeah.
There are worse movies.
I am Super Hitler. Oh my god, it's Super Hitler.
He gets Hitler from the end of the Wolfenstein 3D games where he's Mecha Hitler.
Oh my god. You fall into Birth of a Nation.
Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah, that was the one part where I was like, you can't name Freddy Krueger, Dracula, and Hitler in the same sentence. I feel like it made me uncomfortable. I guess in 1993 it was a different time.
Stalin, I'm gonna get Gaddafi, I'm gonna get Coney, I'm gonna get Trump.
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, I'm not sure it went over well then. Like that's just an odd one. That's the premature ejaculation equivalent.
There's a lot of premature ejaculation in this movie. It's not even.
What were you thinking, John McTiernan?
But that's a better movie. What you just like pitched there is a much better movie.
I mean,
you could even multiverse it if you wanted to.
Yeah, and like you could take, like, you know, what's it called? The Space Jam. You remember the second Space Jam movie came out? No one saw it, but there's a scene in there.
I didn't see it.
There's a scene in that
one.
It's the scene where they're playing basketball against the new Monstars, and they go to every Warner Brothers property, and they have this like multiversal basketball game where like you've got all these Batman characters and like the guys from Clockwork Orange are there for some reason, and they're all watching the basketball game. And I'm like, if you were to, you know, have the right studio that owns a massive amount of properties, you could pull something like that off.
Yeah, like the Lego Batman movie, which just pulled everything that they owned.
Mm-hmm. And it would be fun, and you could just have crazy stuff happening. There's a movie called Cabin in the Woods, which I really enjoy, where they, at the end of the movie, all of these horrific monsters are attacking this facility, but they're all sort of kind of like discounted versions of stuff that, you know, like Hellraiser Cenobites and like It, and there's a unicorn, and there's all these different monsters, and that kind of stuff is just fun, right? It's just like good old fashioned fun.
Well, look at like the Ready Player One, the book.
Yeah,
in the movie
written by a monster. Continue.
I know, but like when you have all these things in the same universe like that in a fun way, it works.
Well. Oh yeah, I mean it is like I said, it's just fun. Like it's like playing with Lego.
Was tease it.
Yeah, just him saying that made me be like, go get them now.
Yeah,
I want to see him fight Dracula.
That's the 4-hour cut.
Yeah, that's the Schneider cut.
That scene where Arnold's like trying to run across cabs, that's just part of it. But then the payoff is that they get to the end of an alleyway, and Bullseye just has this like army of like people you recognize from horror movies, and Godzilla. Yeah. It's like, I could bring King Kong through if I wanted to. Well, get him.
Yeah, get him right now. But I mean, you know, the ticket has to show up at a multiplex, right? And it has to be like a movie theater with like 20 theaters in it, so that they can just run into different movies, and like just, you know, they don't even need to be real movies. Just have them go into like a version of a Jason Voorhees type movie where he's wearing like one of those shitty hockey masks that doesn't look like the one he wears.
Well, here
are
some
a hedge trimmer.
Here's some 1993 movies that he could pull from. Just this first. Oh my god. Dazed and Confused, Fire in the Sky, Falling Down,
classic
Leprechaun
villain story,
Dazed
and Confused,
A Bronx Tale. He gets all right. Nightmare Before Christmas. I know that doesn't come out till later in the year. Tombstone.
He brings Oogie Boogie out.
He gets Schindler's List.
Oh god, that's where they got Hitler from.
That's where they got Hitler from.
Yikes.
You know what I mean? The Good Son came out in 1993. He's a freak.
Yeah, get evil Kevin McAllister.
The Sandlot, True Romance, Dennis the Menace, Free Willy.
Imagine he teamed up with Dennis the Menace, Bullseye and Dennis the Menace.
And Free Willy just flops through onto Arnold.
Okay.
Even
Man,
Jurassic
those are
Park.
some classics.
Yeah. A lot of good movies came out in 1993.
Cliffhanger,
If-
Mask of the Phantasm.
So if I was getting a sequel in, is that the
Mm.
prompt?
That's the
Yeah.
prompt.
It would be Arnold in a movie, and then you turn around and be like, the revenues never went down, or whatever it was. Like there is like the sequels won't end until whatever that line was.
Oh yeah.
And then boom, there's your movie.
it's him trying to get the revenues to go down. He's like, I just want to retire.
Cancel me.
Yeah.
He
Or
reveals
you have
he reveals that he cheated on Maria Shriver when it happened.
Oh no.
Oh.
Or this is
So-
the real twist. Jack Slater goes and cheats on all these people. Like he goes and has sex with these women and frames it so that Arnold Schwarzenegger seems like he's cheating on his wife. Because
oh,
he's
goodness.
trying to bring the downfall of Arnold Schwarzenegger so that he doesn't act in the movies anymore.
Oh
So
yeah,
that he
the
just-
next one's just him trying to kill him. The
Yeah.
other thing is there was this time where a sequel, like you'd have, it wouldn't have to be related to the other one. It would just have to be
Yeah.
like a vague plot that was related
Yeah.
to it. I would put this movie in video games. I would
Yeah.
just have this movie in video games.
Mhm.
I
Just Wreck-It
think-
Ralph.
Wreck-It
Ralph,
I agree
yeah.
with you on that. I think this as a Saturday morning cartoon would have been sick.
Yeah, like a
Where-
RoboCop.
Yeah, like every week he has to deal with some new monster that's been pulled through by the thing.
There was, fun fact, a video game for this.
For
On the Super
for
Nintendo.
or for Super
Yeah.
Nintendo. I think you had to pick.
I mean, it was the 90s. Everything
Damn.
everything had a
Yeah.
movie tie-in for their video game franchises.
I think you had to
I-
pick up like little tickets, where it's like the MacGuffin, and shoot your little pebble gun probably.
What?
Because like in old Nintendo games, like when you shoot the gun at just a little
Oh, it's a little pellet.
little
Yeah.
pellet,
Okay.
yeah,
Pixel.
little pixel comes out.
It's like the ET video game.
Yeah,
That landfill.
I owned a copy
Oof.
of that. It
Like
sucked.
actually?
Yeah, it sucked.
Damn.
It sucked.
Damn. It's a
I didn't
collector's
have
item now.
NES.
Now it
Yeah.
is. I have no idea. I had an Atari with like this box of games at one point when I was probably like 10. Anyway.
What? So we went over the fact that there's no rules. We talked about sequels, which would be interesting. I'm surprised that because it did well enough, but maybe it sounded like the production of this was pretty messy. So it could have been just a thing where everyone was like, "No, I'm not doing another one of those." Because apparently it did pretty well in rentals and home video sales and stuff. So there's kind of a little bit of a following. But I don't know, maybe not enough to get people in, not enough to get Tom Noonan back as the Ripper.
Who is
But
that?
Little
guy?
Richard was up for it.
Yeah, Little Richard was like, "Ooh, I'll do it.
Ooh,
I'll play the
Tutti
Ripper."
frutti.
Him is the main bad guy. Oh, also my sequel would have to star somebody not Arnie. It would have to be like another of
Van
this
Damme.
genre of exactly, who was also in this movie, who doesn't
He
like
was.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He gets the most hilarious, shortest cameo ever. Also, Stallone is in the universe of Jack Slater is the Terminator. It's a Stallone movie, which was
Yes.
an interesting little.
That was
nod.
just a fun thing because they're like frenemies or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They've since the 80s had this like back and forth because they're the two biggest, I suppose. But you were asking who Tom Noonan is. He's been around forever. He was in RoboCop 2.
Oh, is he the Ooze Man?
He's
The
like
toxic man
the
at the end.
no 2. That's the first movie.
Oh,
Yeah. And he was in Hell on Wheels. He plays like the priest in Hell on Wheels. I don't know if you ever watched that show. He's been
I know
around
what it is,
for a
but
while.
I haven't seen it. Yeah.
He's a great journeyman actor who's been in TV and movies since the 70s. And it's nice to see him in things because he's a good actor. And I forgot that he was in this. And when he showed up, I was happy, even through all that weird makeup he was wearing. I was like, wait a minute, that's that guy.
So I want to
So
talk
many
about.
teeth.
I want to talk
Yeah.
about that for a sec because as a kid, I loved it, wasn't scared by it, liked it. Like thought it was really interesting and cool, even though I was like kind of a wuss. But I forgot that he has this like normal guy voice. You'd expect him
Right.
to be like, "I'm the Ripper. I'm gonna kill you." And he's like, "Hey man, look, I'm gonna kill your kid. I'm gonna kill your
Yeah.
kid.
I just love killing.
I just
It
love to
is
kill."
more off-putting when someone has a normal voice and they're, they look like they should sound messed up.
Yeah.
But he also like famously has a very calm sounding voice in everything. It's like his voice can put you at ease, but then they usually cast him in things that the things that is saying is disturbing. So the calm voice makes it even more disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's sort of a typecast thing for him. Yeah, long hair, no hair on top. That's exactly how he looks in RoboCop 2. He's just creepy.
Have multiple sequels of this just starring everyone who's been in the Expendables.
Ah, yeah. We get an Antonio Banderas version.
Megan Fox is in the most recent one.
Oh. She's also in the most recent Mortal Kombat.
Video game,
Yikes.
Doing the world's best voice acting.
That's great. So good.
She's like, ever since my family of vampires was here on Earth, I've been...
You're doing a better job right now, Jason. You need to stop.
Okay. But it is bad. It is pretty bad. You said it sounded like she was sleepwalking or something. We were talking in chat, and you were like, sounds like she's asleep.
It sounds like, I said it sounded like she was talking in her sleep when they just put a microphone next to her while she was napping. So apparently the first version of this movie was actually all in the movie world, and then they made another version where it was all in the real world. And so I think what we got was this sort of like hybrid Frankenstein version of the two. And I honestly think that they both suffer for that fact. You know, it's like maybe have 10 minutes at the end where they're in the real world and 10 minutes at the beginning where they're in the real world. Like have a thing where
the Barbie mix of it. That's a perfect balance of real world and Sweden.
I thought that there was stuff in Barbie that could have been cut out in a similar way, like the traveling back and forth between dimensions. I thought.
Don't get me started on how much I like that.
I like it. I like it. It actually canonizes all the toys into the universe of Barbie. Like that's what that movie kind of did for me. But in the movie, I was like, okay, I get it. Okay. I get it.
But he's throwing up in one of them and still hanging off of it because he can't do anything. And then the second one where you have a human reacting to the toys. And then there's exposition happening in there about Ken. And then it pays off with all the guys. Oh, no, I loved it.
Barbie is
You're
actually
not wrong,
sequel.
though, that they did do it a couple times. And you probably didn't have to, but I definitely enjoyed it.
Barbie's the sequel, the true sequel to Last Action Hero. That's the true,
Yeah.
Or the remake. It's not even a reboot. It's a full remake.
But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this must be why this movie is so long, because they spliced two other movies together, and it was written by 100 people.
The other part that I was thinking about is sometimes in the 90s they would just make movies without the intention of making a sequel. That this kind of feels like, and that's why so much stuff is jammed in. I mean, if it made $100 million over its budget, it would be undeniably, we got to make a sequel. You got to make a
franchise. There was a lot of stuff though where it was like sequel stuff also usually had, like you were calling the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin Toyetic, where they made it into something that can make toys. And that was always taken into consideration as well, right?
Also,
yeah, you didn't really get sequels to movies that didn't have toys. What was the point? The point of the sequels is generally to make money from ticket sales, but then to like capitalize even more.
And who can we blame for that?
George Lucas.
George Lucas.
I find Jack Slater's look in this movie to be incredibly iconic for me. Like growing up, I love that look, like the jeans, red shirt, the brown jacket, the cowboy boots,
snakeskin boots.
Yeah, and then I had the action figure of it when I was a kid, and I loved it. I thought it was like the coolest looking thing. But the thing is it's like it doesn't go with anything. I think you get the Ripper and you could get Jack Slater, and those were the toys for this movie. Maybe Bullseye, Benedict, whatever.
Right.
I don't know what else you would have. The car?
A car?
Yeah,
the car.
The big monster truck. That weird red truck full of like 5 guys that look exactly the same until you get a close up and you realize, oh yeah, it's that guy from all those action movies, those John Carpenter movies.
Yeah, you get.
I forget his name. He's like the Asian guy with like the wraparound hair, but it's usually really long in most movies. But in this, he has it like tied up. He's the guy who gets killed with the ice cream cone.
Right. Yeah. Who's from?
Yeah, he was
the play set for this is actually just like his apartment with the broken down door.
Yeah, or the closet with bullet holes in it.
Yeah, it looks like you can
Okay,
get.
I really like that bit when he just shot at the
Yeah.
thing, and he's like, "There's always a guy there. It costs me so much in closet doors."
Door
I
repair, yeah.
actually laughed.
And then his closet is just full of like 10 of the same jacket and t-shirt and pants. Yeah.
You can get so there's a bunch of figures. There's the red, there's like the car. I think it's supposed to be his car, but then there's a bunch of figures, and there's 2 different Benedicts. There's the kid. There's 4 different Arnolds, and there's 1 Ripper. And
That's way more
Or
toys than I thought.
Is
there
one of them in
was.
like a tuxedo when he's at the red carpet event?
One is battle damage jacket off. One is regular non-battle damage jacket on. One is, it looks like him from fucking the Hamlet movie. And one has the MPD a bulletproof vest on, and then a like a jacket that goes over it, like a trench coat that goes over top of it.
That's wild. But I mean, I remember the Batman Returns era where they had like 10 different Batmans that came out in a movie, and it's like Batman with scuba gear so he can fight the Penguin. I'm like, what? He doesn't do that. He doesn't wear scuba gear in this
Now
movie.
he's in Sonic armor.
Yeah. And then there's the Roadster. It's called the Evil Eye Roadster, and it has Benedict in it, but it's just a red car.
Also, the Penguin toy for Batman Returns was like looked absolutely nothing like the Penguin from the movie. I guess because it was too scary looking. They're like, we can't have black ooze coming out of this guy's mouth.
You could also get a 2-pack of just the penguins from the Batman Returns, which I had.
I believe I had that as well. Yeah,
because they were probably cheaper.
it was probably like a real bargain bin moment where
Yeah.
your parents were like, "Oh, it's only $3 for a pack of 4 penguins."
I'm so mad that I don't have any toys from those movies, but I do have the McDonald's frosted cups. I still have
Sweet.
them from Batman Forever.
Whoa.
I have the Riddler, I have Robin, and I have 2 Batmans.
I think that there was.
I remember those, and I had forgotten about them until just now.
I think there was Last Action Hero tie-in because there is Burger King branding in this movie, and I feel like there was Last Action Hero.
That doesn't happen anymore, right? Does it? I don't know because I don't really go to
I
like
think Pokemon,
McDonald's?
like Pokemon.
Yeah, they still have
sometimes.
tie-ins.
Do they
Yeah.
do like Marvel movies and stuff too, or is it just like
I can't remember who has the license. It was Disney for the longest time, and then Disney severed it because they didn't want to make kids fat. I think that was sorry, I did not put that the way they put that.
yeah? I'm like, we don't want to
Unhealthy
promote childhood obesity. Yeah.
That's the one. But right now they have like Squishmallows, so they still do a variety of things. But there was like Trolls dolls, I think.
Okay.
It depends.
Oh, it was
90s though was what an era. Like kids
It was-
movies were not the same as they are now.
What do you think of
Yeah.
anyone who doesn't see
Here,
this
check
movie?
this out.
Big mistake.
Love this place.
I think it's the biggest movie of the summer. And now when you go to Burger King and order a plain broiled Whopper with large fries and a medium drink, you get this Last Action Hero animated action cup free. Like him,
Animated
large
cup.
and in charge.
What?
So-
What does that
movie
mean?
and collect
So
all 4
to try to
cups. It's your
describe
way
this,
right.
I know this is it's already a highly visual podcast, but basically it's like it like has like the cup and then like a picture and then a picture on top of it. So when you spin it, like you get like a small animation. And I vaguely remember that now, actually.
I remember the texture of those.
Yeah.
And they have a medieval times one that I got not too long ago.
Mm.
Because if anyone's gonna have that. So there have been Minions tie-ins and then Elemental tie-in.
Mm.
So I guess they're still doing it.
I guess it's just Marvel and
It's when they started
Elemental was
putting
Pixar though, wasn't it?
Disney
Yeah, that's
owns
why-
Pixar.
That is Disney.
Unless that's a deep fake image of that.
Yeah. We've been fooled on the podcast before.
Hey, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay.
They
I'm
started
gonna-
putting
What episode is this so that I can go back and
It's
watch?
last week. I thought that the Fern Gully fucking movie was real.
Oh, I'm
we all
sorry.
forgave you.
It took a minute though.
I think that maybe Disney, once they started putting apple slices in the Happy Meals, they're like, okay, we'll give you toy stuff again.
They got
So-
rid of the apple slices. They're
What?
They're pineapple chunks now.
Weird.
Oh.
So you get sweet railroad tongue.
I'm in the know.
Yeah, I'm like mildly allergic to pineapple, so that's disappointing.
I think most
to
people are,
me, an adult man.
Does your tongue get all weird? Because that's the allergy, right?
Yeah, my lips get all tingly.
Madison calls it railroad tongue because it's like you've got train tracks on your tongue.
Gross.
Yeah. I'm like, that's just pineapple, dude. That's funny because when I go to McDonald's, I try to get the most disgusting thing on the menu because I'm going to eat fast food and I'm going to try to pretend and eat pineapple chunks.
They don't have peanuts anymore for their sundaes, which I understand.
That makes sense. Yeah,
makes me super sad.
But I remember as a kid getting a caramel sundae and putting peanuts on it. Man, I want McDonald's from when I was
now we want ice
10.
cream.
Yeah.
With those little cocaine spoons that they used to have for stirring your coffee.
Yeah.
Then you just do cocaine with them because you're an adult.
Instead. Yeah. I remember they had a dinosaurs tie-in when I was a kid, and you could get like in a giant cup with a dinosaur on it, just like they would fill it with chicken nuggets, like to the brim.
Amazing.
I don't know how many were in there, but
I had the little toy of the baby. Like he was like this big.
Oh, like the little pink thing?
Yeah.
The chewing gum monster.
Not the mama?
Yeah. Not the mama. I recently, because it's on Disney, I think, I watched like a couple episodes, and then one of my friends was like, "Do you remember the last episode?" And I was like, "No."
I was gonna say, do you remember the last episode?
And I went back and watched it, and I was like, "What the fuck? This is insane."
The saddest thing.
Yeah,
when the
it's tragedy.
baby is there being like, "Are we gonna die?" Like, and he's just like trying to comfort the baby as like the snow falls.
With his goofy, like, "Well, we might die, but who knows?"
And then the reporter.
Yeah.
Is the final line.
Oh my god.
But the creators were apparently there was some pushback for the ending. They're like, they're dinosaurs. We knew they were gonna die.
It's like,
how
guys,
else were we going
all
to
the
end?
dinosaurs are dead, yeah.
Are you guys talking about the end of the Dinosaurs television program?
Yes.
What a dark
Jim
ending
Henson
to a TV
Productions.
show. Could you
Probably
imagine
one of the darkest. Blackadder, also a dark ending. Like those are the two that come
does it
to
end with
mind.
like the plague or something?
Yeah, they all die. Yeah.
Well, you remember the end of Alf where he goes on a killing spree with a shotgun?
That's the episode. That's the episode they didn't air. They're just the one where they imply that he goes back to Marklar or whatever the planet's called.
Like this can't be real.
They couldn't do the actual finale where he busts out of the FBI's care and starts murdering mercilessly.
No, he eats a cat on camera, and it's really like David Lynch directed it. Yeah.
It's Cronenbergian, and
it's Cronenbergian.
Man.
Or the end of Seinfeld where they do a murder-suicide pact.
Oh God.
Sorry, that was the darkest.
This is going all over the place. I don't really have any more notes about the movie.
Let me. You know what I liked? I liked at the beginning of Slater 4, where we heard "Angry Again" by Megadeth, because I saw Megadeth live in concert last week, and they played that song, and it was great to see it in a movie 5 days later.
The opening of Slater seems like a movie that was directed by John Carpenter. Like
kind of the whole movie seems like a kind of a John Carpenter.
Like he's like a real Jack Burton style character, and he's even kind of dressed the same as him, and it just, except it's like, how John Carpenter took the character of Jack Burton and made him the sidekick and like the goofball, but he thinks he's the hero of the movie. It's sort of the earnest version of that. Sometimes I dream about John Carpenter coming out of retirement just to direct one last thing.
Just to do one last Jack Burton before what's his face passes away.
Sometimes I have dreams that James Cameron will make another good movie that's not an Avatar movie.
Won't spend a decade making one movie.
Yeah. He won't. He's so involved in Avatar now that he can't. He is Avatar.
He's obsessed with water also.
Yeah, he loves being underwater.
And water special effects. And it all started when he started messing around with old T-1000.
We bring it back to Arnold.
We bring back Arnold. So I had another theory corner that I wanted to float by you guys. It's kind of like, realistically, does this movie just happen all in Danny's head when he falls asleep right before he goes out for the night? Like while he's doing homework, he passes out, and this all just happens in his head.
No, Danny's dead.
Oh my god.
He gets murdered by the person.
But that's another thing that I was thinking too. He dies during that home invasion.
Oh no. The movie cuts to just his mom crying over his like bloody corpse in the bathtub where the murderer left him. Oh god.
I like that. I mean, I don't like it, but it's
I love it.
It's good a theory as this fucking movie.
Yeah, I don't have any theory corners. I like magic. It happened, guys. It happened for real. He had Houdini's magical movie ticket. And he went to another world.
And he wanted to be a magician. I did like that he just wanted to hang out with some of the old movies. Like Camille and I can't remember. He just dropped a couple of them, but
he didn't want to go to any like crazy,
hang.
exciting movies. Yeah, he just wants to go hang out with actors. They're not even the actors, the characters. That was a question I was going to ask you guys was like, is there a movie that you would want to go into just to like experience? You don't have to live there forever, but...
No death. Like, I can jump out at any point. I can't die on screen. Like, those are the parameters.
Depends on the movie, man. If there's... Like, if you go into the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you might die.
What's that adult film from the early 2000s? I think it was called Pirates.
Oh my god. You know, as soon as you said it, I knew you were going to say Pirates. The most expensive prawn ever made.
Prawn movie ever in existence. Let me think about it for a second for a real answer. Well, I mean, that's my answer, but...
You would go into a porno?
I would not. I would...
Would you be allowed to join into the porno happening, or would you have to just be watching from like close range? Jason's just looking through a porthole, like, holy shit!
I can't think of something more uncomfortable.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go to a world where everyone's trying to fuck me.
That
would not be.
I didn't even think about that aspect of it. Yeah, that'd be bad.
You're just worn out immediately.
Mine very much has an undertone of violence.
Yeah. The Super Mario Brothers movie, just for the sake of conversation.
I wonder, would you turn in? Oh
wait,
yeah,
like,
you mean the '90s one?
'90s one.
Oh,
because
so you go to Dino Manhattan.
Yeah, it's a similar movie to this. It's got similar sort of story beats.
Yeah,
and also was a hell in production. Like the directors were. And treated everyone like crap. Apparently.
Yeah, they were tortured artists. No, they were psychos.
They had a vision.
Is there a documentary about that movie? I feel like there is, and if there isn't,
an oral
there
history of some
be.
kind.
Yeah, there should be. Like, somebody needs to uncover all that. Like John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins were just so drunk the whole time. That scene where they're like driving in the Mario truck, they're wasted and they're actually doing their own stunts, which is wild.
They're driving for real.
Yeah.
Not like in the movie Drive, where they had to give him stunt driving lessons, but then he's not driving in any of the scenes where he's also acting.
I assume Ryan Gosling is Ken in real life, so that doesn't surprise me.
Yes. So is your actual answer that Super Mario Brothers movie?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. I got to think about this one.
I also wanted to mention that there is a brief cameo from Robert Patrick in this, which I thought was excellent. When
you're right.
When they're going into the cop station, he runs by them for like a split, like blink and you miss it moment that I thought we should mention, but doesn't really require any conversation. So, yeah. Noel, what's your answer?
Pass. Wait, come back to me.
Okay, Steve, what movie do you want to get? Do you want to get Last Action Hero into?
Would I want
Star Wars?
Well, I mean, obviously that's something I would love.
In the most
that's what I
ones.
mean.
Like they kill everyone off.
It's true.
But I wouldn't want to go into Star Wars because it's literally a place where the stars are warring with each other constantly all the time.
Full war all the time.
And I'd probably, knowing my luck, I would go in and I'd immediately get captured by Jabba the Hutt and become a slave, a sexual slave of some sort. Forced to do pod racing, the deadliest sport. I would. I would. As much as going to Star Wars would be cool, it's not like I would be a Jedi when I go. Right? I would just be
You'd
in
be
the
in
Jedi.
the Senate. You'd just be forced to sit in one of those little
more trade disputes.
You'd just be an ET monster in that world.
I feel like Star Wars, is something that I love and I love to watch, but I don't think I would want to be in that world for real.
You can have as much powers as Danny ends up getting, which is like he
Zero.
knows how to use a crane mysteriously.
He flies on that bike.
Yeah, he can brandish a gun. Pretty good.
I would show up in episode 2 and I would tell Anakin, "Hey man, this guy's the Emperor. He's trying to fucking take over." They'd arrest me. But it's also like, would I want to stay in this world forever? If that was the case, I would probably go into a Star Trek movie because that's where humanity has figured out all of its wrinkles. Well, I wouldn't be on the bridge of any I would be living on one of the planets just chilling out.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, or like a space station or something. Because humanity's wrinkled out all of its dirty laundry, and ironed out all of its wrinkly laundry and figured it out, and everybody just does what they want and thrives, and it seems amazing. So I would want to live there. But if I'm just experiencing a movie, just to be in the movie, that it's like the duration of its movie, that's a whole other question as well. Is it you're going into the world and staying there forever, or when the movie ends, do you die or do you wake up and the movie starts again?
I was thinking of it like
the whole movie
you have
again.
the same experience as Danny has with M City or whatever it's called, the California.
So he jumps in at the beginning of the movie.
Is Danny in the movie now? Like, is he in Jack Slater?
That's what I'm saying. That's my theory, that when people go see Jack Slater 4, all of that happens because
for some reason I did not connect that.
They don't.
But yeah,
they don't know that didn't happen, or
is that now just the
magic
movie, or is it like when the movie restarts? Is he aware of it and he's like, "What? Oh God!"
Because the part at the end,
it's like a Groundhog's Day situation.
Yeah,
that's how he made friends. Because he's in this
chief.
movie, and then it comes out, and then everyone's like, "Oh, you're in this movie."
Yeah.
What world would I go into?
No.
I still haven't really answered the question, but it's because I don't know. I asked the question without ever thinking about my answer.
Just pick a damn movie.
Yeah. Predator.
Predator, not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Predator.
The Predator.
Yeah, I don't think I'd go to Predator. If I had to live in the universe forever, I think I would go into Frozen because I like winter. Seems like a nice little place to be. Magical castle. Everyone sings. There's not really a whole lot of conflict.
Talking
that you're in a Disney movie. Yeah, like it seems like a pleasant time. To just drop in though, a Batman movie. I would be in 100% in a Batman movie, and I want to be the villain because the villains don't really die in Batman movies. They just go to Arkham, so I wouldn't die, and I'd be totally fine in prison.
So you
like
just
if I was in my
you just have to jump into Gotham, immediately develop a horrible mental illness, and start like doing
you just have a mentee B.
Start robbing banks dressed as a clown. You'll be fine.
I know with my luck, I'll fall into Titans instead and just have like absolutely horrible time.
Yeah.
Fuck. Sorry. Swear.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to go to Gotham as well, just because of the architecture. It looks cool. I'd like to look around in that city.
Yeah, but
I have to say this out loud. Yeah, so it's supposed to be New Jersey.
No, the Tim Burton version.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about Christopher Nolan's Gotham. Fuck that. It's just like a regular city with more gassy stuff coming out of its sewer grates.
Even Tim Burton's, like in Batman '89 in the daytime, just looks like a regular city.
I'm talking about Batman Returns, where there's giant statues everywhere,
the giant
holding up bridges and
everywhere.
stuff.
Yeah. And even Joel Schumacher kind of kept that.
His is wild. Yeah, there's like highways going through buildings and like spiraling. It's like a roller coaster, but you drive on it somehow.
No, Fast and the Furious movies. That's what I'd like to be in.
Because you fucking can't die in those movies unless they.
You can't. It would be crazy shit. And since I can't drive, I would know how to drive in this movie. Like I would have to, which would be great. Like the only time I've ever driven was in the little speedway in Disney World, and I was having the time of my life. I tell you, I was like, oh my God, I've never been on the road like this. So yeah, I would really enjoy that. Let's do that. I'm going to go to the Fast and Furious world.
All right, we got Mario, we got a bunch of movies, and we got Fast and Furious.
Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm going to Halloween Town.
That'd be cute.
And I would like to see what I would look like as like a what's his name, Henry Selick creation puppet.
It'd be like that guy on TikTok. Have you seen that? Have I sent you one of those where the guy like walks around like this?
I have seen it.
It's off-putting. Okay, I don't know if I have any more like editorialized notes. I think it's I think we mostly covered the movie. We also did it. We talked about this thing for 2 hours, which at 39 minutes I was like, uh-oh. Did we exhaust?
I feel like you've said that about every movie this month, so
It's true. I think if we
Tough
can
month, eh?
I don't know what happened.
I think that you
Not a
just
lot
get in
of
your head and
substance
you look
with
at the
hunks.
Yeah, no, he just looks at the clock and he's like, "Oh no, we have nothing left to talk about." I'm like, we do. We'll figure it out. We got it.
It's true. We've never had a bad guest.
We can talk about Charles Dance for 45 minutes if we want to.
It's true. He was in Game
He's
of
the
Thrones.
best.
Yeah. That's
He's
Charles
also just
Dance
like
month.
intimidating, man. He has this sort of gravitas to the way that he delivers lines that even when it's like bullshit, terrible action movie lines, it still is like he's doing a good job here. Like when he kills that guy, he's like, "I've just murdered a man on purpose."
Here's something that I'll do
Want-
that I got to do this week that I've never been able to do before. I did a little contest
A
on
pull-up?
Instagram.
No.
Wait, what?
A pull-up?
I can do a pull-up. Can I do 2 pull-ups? Maybe.
Perhaps
I
not.
have
Can I
a
do-
pull-up bar just out of
Can I do
It's off.
3? Definitely not 3. I know you.
because I live with Ken, my
Yeah.
Mojo Dojo Casa house.
You live in a Mojo Dojo Casa house with a rippling buff boy. Anyway, I got caught up in my
I'm so
head.
sorry.
Yeah.
What was your
You
contest?
did something that
I
you
did a contest
never did before.
where actually I have done it before, but people actually replied this time. But I basically like put up an image from the poster, the bottom like fourth of the poster, and I said, if you can name this image, I'll give you a shout out. There's no pressure. The following people got it: Brenton Brown, Dex Howe, Chris Murphy, who will be on the show later this year, and an old friend of mine, Gordon McDonald. So that was
What
the
was
thing.
the image?
It was the bottom fourth of the poster
Oh, okay.
where Wendy is, just that part.
Yeah,
I
I didn't
see.
even know. When you posted that, I messaged you and was like, did I watch the right movie?
Yes, so perfect. That's what I was going for.
So I lost.
And when
I
our old co-host was on the show, he used to do that sometimes. But I don't think anybody ever responded. But it's just engagement, just doing some engagement stuff.
I would
Can I
respond, but I
pitch a
already
month?
knew what movie it was. Yeah, of course you can.
Women turning from inanimate objects to people.
Okay.
So like that.
You'd have
mannequin?
life-size mannequin. Yeah, life-size with Tyra Banks and Lindsay Lohan.
What's that?
Mannequin, you have Barbie.
Does she turn from an inanimate object into a person though in Barbie?
Yeah.
Not really. She is like a ghost in a weird ghost Barbie world.
Sweden.
Who's connected. Was that the joke? Also,
No, she's a doll. Like, that's what Gloria was holding is her. And
but it's
she's
like
at her
soul
desk.
is in Barbie land, is how I kind of interpreted that.
I don't think they meant for us to think about it this deeply.
No.
But she went from being a plastic thing to a lady with a bits. So that counts.
Oh, I see what you're saying. By the end of the movie, she Pinocchios.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the fourth one can just be Pinocchio. How about
Yeah. Just literally.
He's girly enough.
Whatever
Yeah.
the worst Pinocchio movie is, though.
Oh, that
oh
new
my
one.
god, the one with Polly Shore.
Yeah.
No. The
Oh,
the
jeez.
Polly
That
Shore
animated
one.
one from a couple of years ago that just everybody hated. There's also the weird one from the early 2000s by that weird Italian director.
That one's not horrible though.
It's not horrible. Okay.
Yeah. And there's also a new one that came out that I haven't seen.
That's a
live
Del
action.
Toro
Del
movie.
Toro?
though.
No.
Yeah.
The live
The
action
Di-
one.
Oh, the Disney one?
It came out.
Oh,
No.
with
No.
Tom Hanks.
Let me get it
Hold
out.
on.
It's also an Italian director.
Sorry. Okay.
I think it might even be the same guy, except instead of playing Pinocchio this time, he plays Geppetto, and it's like he made another one. I'm like, well, why is this guy making so many Pinocchios? There's a line from the movie that was in the trailer where it's this little boy and his nose is growing and he goes, "What's going on with my nose?" I'm like, okay, I gotta watch this one day.
A
The
rich
new
text, apparently.
yeah, the Zemeckis one sucks terribly. I tried to watch it and I couldn't
He's
do it.
in his flop era.
Yeah, he's flopping. He's too into CGI stuff, I think, is what the issue is. But the Del Toro one ruled. It was so good. I recommend.
I haven't seen it, but I assume that it's a very Del Toro movie with a lot of like, he makes up his own lore with weird monsters.
Yeah, he takes the story. He loves the Spanish War.
It's kind of dark,
yeah,
like in the way that the kids dying is just kind of a theme in
Mm-hmm.
his movies.
Yeah. It's a little more tragic, but it also has good music in it too. Like they wrote all these original songs that are quite catchy and fun and dark as well. Like he's the part where he's just like breaking stuff and he's like, "I love that hammer, hammer, hammer." It's just like hammering everything.
The girl in Pan's Labyrinth is dead, right?
She dies at the end. Yeah.
Just like the boy in this movie is dead.
Right,
the
yeah.
beginning.
A home invasion happens and she gets killed by a man dressed as a fawn. And that's why when she dies, she thinks she's in a magical world.
Or something, right? In Pan's Labyrinth.
She gets shot at the end of the movie and then she fades away and wakes up and she's the queen of wherever the hell.
I don't know if you can hear my cat is she's meowing a lot.
I can't. I wish I could hear that.
Hey, shush.
Give it down, you cat.
I had something I was onto here, but I can't remember what it is. But I'm sure.
Was it about Pinocchio?
What's going on with my nose?
What's going on with the nose?
The Pauly Shore performance though is incredible. Like I don't know, he whines. Have you seen this? He whines throughout. He's like, "But come on!"
Yeah, that's the only. I think
It's
that's
like
the main
voice
part
he's using.
that's been put on, like memed.
Yes.
I watched a really bad Pauly Shore movie called like The House Guest or something like that, where he just lives in this person's like pool house, and it was supposed to be like just like a Pauly Shore movie, but it was just so bad. And you can
telling me a Pauly Shore movie was bad?
His original run of movies gave Adam Sandler movies a run for their money, in my opinion. Same kind of vibe. Anyway, this is a podcast about Last Action Hero, and since it is the top of the hour, does anybody else have any notes that they'd like to submit before we go into our final thoughts portion of the show? We haven't talked about Last Action Hero in about 10 minutes. Should let you guys know that as well.
Yeah, I think I'm good on thoughts about this movie.
I had more to say about Charles Dance, but it's okay. I'll just write them in my diary tonight.
Charles Dance came into my dreams again.
He's so handsome.
He's a very
Charles
handsome
Dance
man.
Month.
Yeah.
He's got the reddish hair.
Dancing with
ginger man.
Dancing with Dance. Yeah, I'll just call it Dancing with Dance.
Dancing with Dance. Dance Month. Fantastic. So, with that said, I'm going to do that thing where I stall while I go over to find the musical sting for our
3
final
Charles
thoughts.
Dance movies and then 1 of like an actual dance movie.
That Julia Stiles movie.
Step it up.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or one with Dancing with Wolves. I can't even think
It's
of it.
time for our final thoughts.
I guess it would be like Alien 3 is one.
Yeah.
What other good ones are there? He's in a lot of
I
stuff.
have
He's
his
rarely...
thing pulled up, or I did. We are in our final thoughts portion, so whenever you want to, we can. But we can just look at the Dance Man for another
The Dance
minute.
Man.
Maybe those are the final thoughts.
Yeah, just Charles Dance rules.
Dance Man.
Yeah, he
dancing
doesn't.
with it.
He does a lot more TV than movies.
Yeah, I think Tywin Lannister is like probably his biggest modern role.
I wouldn't say so, but
He
does a lot of stage as well. He's like a Shakespearean guy.
We kind of skipped. You guys talked about John Practice a little bit, but F. Murray Abraham is in Mythic Quest.
Mythic Quest. What's
Mythic
that?
Quest is a Rob McElhenney show on Apple TV about a video game production company, and it's very good. And there's 3 seasons, and you should watch it. He was also on the new season of The White Lotus, which I think more people saw. White Lotus was a cultural moment as well. He was also the voice of Khonshu in Moon Knight. So he is a good actor.
Incredible voice.
Yes.
I actually like Moon Knight.
Moon Knight was good.
He's in Underworld, Blood Wars, and Awakening.
Really?
You know what Charles Dance was in, Jason? Your favorite movie from the year 2016, Ghostbusters.
Oh, my least favorite movie of all.
He plays the crusty dean.
Yeah, he plays the guy who the building in the first movie is named after.
The crusty dean of the university.
Yeah.
You no longer work here. I'm sorry.
I like that.
Oh,
movie.
no, yes, you're right. The guy who
I didn't mind it either,
the
actually.
building's named after.
They just let them riff too long. Like,
Yeah.
they needed to say, like, hey, don't...
Reel him in a bit, yeah.
I was thinking of Afterlife also, and I was also thinking of the guy from J. Jonah Jameson. I was thinking about that dude.
Oh.
So yeah.
No. I'm it's
2016
the
Ghostbusters.
it's 2016
He's
one,
in
yeah.
Going Postal. The Terry Pratchett movie with, oh my God, Claire Foy is in it.
I don't know if I've ever seen
Sure, I
Going
know.
Postal.
I'm sure I've seen it.
I mean, no Terry Pratchett can actually be turned into a proper movie, but I enjoyed it. So, final thoughts.
Okay,
I
it is
I
a.
typed in going postal to like bring up the IMDb just to look at it for a second. It says the term going postal is when someone gets extremely angry and often in a fit of rage or violence kills somebody. Oh my God. Usually at their workplace. Like, yeah. Okay.
At the post office, or
I meant
they
the
work for the
movie.
post office. I think
Yeah.
Going Postal comes from like the bell tower post office worker who went nuts that they always memed on in the 90s. That said, as we
Final
do
thoughts.
as we do at the top of the show, it's become a tradition around these parts to let the guest go first for final thoughts. So Noel, please let us know your final thoughts of the film, the movie, Last Action Hero.
The film,
The film,
this piece of cinema.
cinema.
There's a lot of things that I regret watching in my life, like the Snyder Cut and then Justice League, the 2 times that I watched it, and soon The Flash. But I am not sad that I watched this one. I'm actually really glad that this came up and that you chose this, because I don't know, it's good to watch a silly movie from time to time, and I had a lot of fun watching it in 2 parts. So I think I'm a better person for having seen it.
And part of it is, I guess I should have told you this, but if you could give it a rating, whether it be like a number or star rating, or just a silly goose funny rating, what would you
So there's no, like, you don't have like a...
I have a thing that I do, but Steve is abstract, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I don't give it a number.
Interesting. I should have prepared for this
Yeah, my
part.
bad. I should have let you know about this element, but
Okay.
it's not no pressure.
Okay, I am giving it's out of 5
If you-
snakeskin boots.
Okay.
5, and this is rated on the Arnie scale, so 5 would be Terminator and 1 would be Junior. I rank this at Last Action Hero.
Perfect.
Out of 5 snakeskin boots.
That's
I
perfectly.
understand.
Yeah, Steve gets it. I get it. It's perfectly the spirit. Kind of combines both mine and Steve's scales. Steve, why don't you go next, because I'm sure
Sure,
that you have something great as well.
I usually don't think about what I'm gonna say and it just pops out of my head. So don't get too excited. I don't hate this movie, but I don't like this movie either. I think it falls into a point where I would probably enjoy this movie much more if I was watching it like with the two of you, while like and then talk about it afterwards. Sort
Which
of
we
thing.
should do down the road. We could just watch the movie we talked
we do that
before.
we do that sometimes, and I often do at the end of the film realize like that was probably not something I would have liked had I not been sitting here riffing on the movie while we watched it. I think this is kind of like a perfect movie for that, because even in its own right, it's riffing on itself, and we would be screaming all Arnold voices at each other, I assume, for the majority of the movie. But yeah, for me, it just kind of it gets a little bit boring, and I do get, like we were talking about during discussion, battle fatigue, where it's like there's too many things happening over and over, action wise, that my eyes start to just kind of unfocus, and I'm like, Don't go on TikTok. Stay off of TikTok. Keep watching the movie. I gotta talk about it. Um, but there's lots to enjoy, and there are some things in this movie that I'm like, that is so funny, and I don't know like what police commissioner while he's yelling having a TV just with a volcano exploding in the background. Like that's so funny. Like what? I know what we should do. We'll put a volcano on the TV behind his head the entire time he's screaming. That's genius. I don't know, maybe not genius, but yeah, I enjoy it enough, and I do think that it's something that I would say watch if you enjoy cheesy action, or if you enjoy Arnold Schwarzenegger in his sort of like classic 80s bleh, bleh. Arnold, what did you just say? But there's something that is lost, like there's something to have like a one-liner after killing somebody in a movie that is very earnest and is not over the top. It takes itself very seriously. And then whereas this, it's like he's just saying them every 5 seconds, so they start to lose their sting, their zest. It's not as zesty after the eighth one-liner. But yeah, not bad, not great. I'll say that I give this movie one missing Dracula and a revolver with 5 bullets in an empty chamber.
It's just so good. Thanks, Steve. Mine's pretty to the point. It's a fun watch. Lots of weird moments, lots of trope stuff happening. They could have trimmed some of that ending down or made it a little bit more succinct or concise, or like just as we were talking about it, it sort of seemed like maybe the fact that the half of the ticket missing was them implying there may be a sequel or something. It's like they had a good idea but didn't know how to end it efficiently, and it
almost seems like they just forgot.
They forgot. They front loaded the movie with a Mel Brooks like parody, and then we're like, oh yeah,
and then we'll set it up for a sequel. And then they went to screen the movie, and they're like, weren't we supposed to have a scene where the ticket gets picked up by someone else?
And like there was like some cool cinematography and some good nods to like bad, like I'm fairly certain that all the bad green screen parts were like self-referential to, like they were expertly made to look bad, because green screen was like, for a movie with a budget like this, green screen for this era was like okay, maybe it was I watched it in like HD, so maybe it was just those moments were popping a lot.
It's also some movies from this era, it didn't look great, but because television and projectors were not as great at the time, they didn't really worry about it, and then they'll be upscaled and cleaned up. But because this movie is not a cinema darling, they're like, no upscaling. We're not fixing this.
And there were some moments.
I watched it on my iPhone 8. So
so it looked perfect, immaculate.
Oh my god,
it was great.
That's incredible.
Crispy. But
there were some moments that looked like actual dog shit, like just in movie, not even on a green screen. There's a scene at the beginning where the old man's talking to him, and it cuts to like an over the shoulder of the kid, and it looks like it was filmed. Like it looks like it was filmed in 480p. That was just left in the movie, like not fixed up later. So there were some all over the place elements there. I think it's fun. I think it's not like a great movie, but it, like Steve said, like if the three of us watch it together, I think we would have had a lot more to say on topic of the movie instead of relating it to other movies. We would have been relating it more to our experience watching the movie, which I think might be why I held it in such high regard as a movie I enjoyed as a kid. But I think when I was a kid, it was so the same but different than a lot of movies of the era, because it's so weird. I've always felt like this movie's just like has this weird quality to it, and that's what I experienced rewatching it. It's just they need to trim it down. I give it like a kind of a flimsy 3 out of 5. Like I would recommend it to fans of the like 90s, but like maybe to people that you've seen it before, because if you haven't seen this, you might be on the side of like, what did I just watch? Noel, you like silly movies, so you like interesting concepts, so like you were more were more ready for this kind of a thing. But somebody going into this movie that doesn't care is going to think it's so dumb, like, and bad. So I think
or unless they're like willing to, like you said, if they're a fan of the 90s and especially the 80s, like this movie is more referential to the 80s than anything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you like Arnold movies and the Lethal Weapon series, then you're gonna get something out of this. If you've never seen it before, I also give this movie trying to summon Godzilla out of one of the portals, but you just get Free Willy and he just flops down in front of you and can't do anything
and dies because he's out of the water for too long.
And my God. I guess that's the show for this week. Noel, you've been a great guest. I would like to officially give you another one of these bad boys. Also, I'm going to give you one of these.
Wow.
And
wow.
One of these.
That's the best one.
Yeah.
I'm honored, truly. I am.
That's going to become a thing, I feel like. I got this soundboard and I've tried to use it sparingly because there was one episode where I was just like, fart noise, fart noise, fart noise. And it doesn't make for great television.
While we were talking about the AIDS epidemic of the 80s.
Yeah. So.
Which was not great.
Sounds like, those shock jocks. Like,
yeah,
just
exactly.
Wait, I think there's signs of life.
Yeah. Fart noise, fart noise, fart noise. So I guess that's the show. Again, thank you. Come back anytime.
Mm-hmm.
When you
can I plug myself?
When you do,
yeah.
I was gonna. That's what I was gonna do. Would you like to plug anything? People don't usually have plugs. I know you have a couple things on the go, right? Podcasts and stuff.
Yeah, I have a podcast with two fellas, and it's called Stick Taps and Stitches, and it's a hockey podcast. So if you like hockey, we have a Habs fan, a Devils fan, and a Leafs fan. So we don't just talk about the Leafs. But yeah, we have a lot of fun on that podcast. And we did do a couple movies. During the off season, we do hockey related movies. So we did cover Most Valuable Primate, Mighty Ducks 2, and Goon. And that was a good time.
I thought you were going to be like Slapshot, Goon.
Are there any like actual hockey movies? Like movies that are like, like Field of Dreams, or, like a serious hockey movie. I don't.
There's what is it? Mystery Alaska
okay.
and
Mystery Alaska.
Miracle, I think.
Okay, Miracle.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you squint, Rooted is a hockey movie.
Yeah. Well, if you squint, Batman and Robin is a hockey movie, and we're definitely covering that.
Yeah. The Hobbages of Hell.
Yeah. So we have a weekly podcast, Stick Taps and Stitches.
That's a good name for a podcast. I wish. We had a good name for our podcast.
I love your name.
With that said, thank you for coming on. And
thank you so much.
We have to ask the same question that we ask each and every week. And Noel, since you like the name so much, why don't you ask it?
Sorry, what's the name of the podcast?
Hey, did you see this one?
Hey, did you see this one?
Where it's like, oh look, it's the outro. Thanks for watching. Somebody make a joke.
Charles Dancing with Wolves. We got to do that month. No.
So it's Mel Gibson.
Is he in that? I honestly don't think I've ever seen
Dances with Wolves is
losing my
what's
mind
his
here.
face? The guy with the I drink your milkshake. Drink it up.
Daniel Day-Lewis?
Yeah. Isn't it?
I think you're thinking of Last
Kevin
of the Mohicans.
Costner.
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah.
Kevin
Which
Costner.
is the...
Ugh.